Ready, Liz? So we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Brian, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? All right, we'll have a moment of silence. All right, we're going to move forward. Lander County Commissioners may break for lunch from 12 p.m. to 1:15 p.m. Any agenda item may be taken out of order, may be combined for consideration by the public body, and items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. Commissioners' reports on meetings, conferences, and seminars attended. Patsy?
Thank you. First of all, as far as Austin is concerned, we are 2 weeks away now from our big fundraiser for the chamber, which is our wine walk and dinner, sunset dinner at the castle. So that is September 11th. I did attend the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority meeting, which was held in Fallon last Friday, and of course, most of you have seen all the reports on the news stations and everything about what condition Nevada is in. Our drought condition is 100% of the whole state in drought. 97% is extreme drought, and the rest is 32%, which is exceptional drought, which affects some of Lander County, of course, on that. We did have a couple guests, and one of them was from the Nevada Division of Water Resources. The state engineer, Adam Sullivan, was there to update us on some things, and also the deputy administrator, Micheline Fairbank. He was actually telling us about the basin designation that they did last fall. There was 58 basins that they designated. They were going to do some other investigation on it. They said they'll probably go ahead with about 6 of them, but the rest, they're going to come back to the different counties and get more input from the public and counties on the rest of them. So it wasn't just a done deal.
Unmuted.
Micheline gave us a whole background on the information of their actual administration offices. I had no idea they were so outdated. They aren't digitalized at all. And of course, with COVID, I'm sure that's, they've been running on a very, very short staff, as we all know. But I can't believe in this day and age that if you want information, you have to drive to Carson City to actually look it up. They are so far behind. And so they were hoping now with the extra resource money that was coming in, perhaps they could update everything and get some more people and get it digitalized and all that other good stuff to restore and update even their different budgets. So the association was pretty much in favor of that, trying to get that up and online. They have currently before the United States Congress, there's a bill, and it's called the Open Access Evapotranspiration Act. And that is actually going to make data accessible through the U.S. Geological Survey. I did get a chance to pull the act. It's very confusing, as a lot of the Congress acts are, but they wanted input, and I thought maybe it's something we might want to look at and even put on our agenda for our input on it. There's concerns of how they might misuse the data, so we want to kind of firm that up a little bit, and they did ask for input from the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority. So we did not support it one way or the other, but we did say we would give them input to try and close up some loopholes that we're concerned about that might be used not quite so favorable for some of our ranchers and farmers. So we need to look a little bit further into that. And our hydrologist that actually does our groundwater monitoring program, gave us an update on the 51 wells and the ground. Actually, we used 12 groundwater basins that the Regional Water Authority belongs with. And he measures 51 wells, and he said all of them are maintaining okay on the levels except for 4 of them. There were noticeable declines in 4 of the 50, 4 of the 12 wells. That's all I have. Thank you.
Is there somebody that is not muted? Do we know? Okay, all right, thanks. All right, do you have anything?
Well, almost had a pool lock meeting. I was the only one that showed up between haying and working, but I did get in touch with Dan, and we're moving in a good direction.
So I haven't had any meetings.
No
Brian.
report.
So moving forward to staff reports on meetings, conferences, and seminars attended.
Good morning, Commission. So we have had a few meetings with our, and here I am drawing a blank because I had a whole bunch of other things on my mind that I'm going to get to shortly. We have had a few meetings with our land use plan and how we're going to proceed forward. I think there'll be some of that coming back before you guys because we're going to look at maybe what kind of buffer zones we put between ag and some of the community. Right now, the way that our code reads, you can't have so many, you only have so many acres per hooved animal, and we don't want feedlots bumped up against your community or dairies or things like that. Not saying that we're getting one, but we don't want to ever be in that situation where, you know, you'd have fly problems or smell problems or other things like that. So it'll probably be coming back before you guys to make sure we create them buffer zones between our community and ag ground so that all fits. Outside of that, everything else we try to keep on the agenda, but I would like to address some things that were on Facebook. I know that the social media, we get quite a few things I would have loved to respond, but we do have some policies that don't allow us to respond with everything that we would like to respond with on a lot of social media sites. So the first thing is that there was some question on, and just for the audience, we do have a phone number. Anybody can call at any time, get a hold of me, get a hold of the front office. We'd love to answer questions, safe from any misinformation that there seems to be spread in social media, because it grows fast. But nonetheless, we have no problem doing it in an open meeting as well. So there's $50,000 that was a concern that we have for a retainer for an attorney, Joey Gilbert, and it actually is for 3 attorneys, just for clarification. I can't go much deeper into why that is because we have attorney-client privileges. Is what I will say is that this commission has done nothing but the best for this community at all times and made sure that they've taken the proper steps in doing so. And the examples that I'm going to use is, and the community probably isn't aware, but I know Kathy was running around beating on doors and asking people, hey, do you know what's happening with net proceeds? Do you know that they're trying to take our net proceeds and up it to 7% of the gross? I'm not sure how many people here have family members that work at the mine or, husband, wife, children work at these mines. But if in Austin, Nevada, if you drive through there, that used to be a booming community. When the mines disappear, everything disappears. You have these golf course houses that are selling for $500,000 right now. They'll be worth $75,000 if the mines go away. This commission filed a lawsuit, thankfully, and the whole northern half of the state of Nevada benefited from that lawsuit. Had we not filed it, they could have taken up to 7% of the gross of our net proceeds, which is a very big deal in a community like this. And a lot of these mines would have had no choice but to close the doors. They would have worked throughout their permits that are already filed, and then they would have just started closing and wrapping up the mines, which would be detrimental to all of northern Nevada. So thankfully to this commission, and we couldn't keep you guys updated in the process of that because of attorney-client privilege, we got something negotiated out where the schools end up being the ones that win the biggest because they get a guaranteed amount of net proceeds. And all communities, they can't go back and revisit this without changing the Nevada Constitution and reapproaching the school union, which is the biggest union in the state. So these are the moves that this commission has made to protect and uphold the rights of not only our county, but the counties throughout northern half of the state. And they do say that every mine job that's out there, every one of them jobs of feet on the ground, create 10 other jobs throughout the state. and that's through, Cashman Equipment. They gotta build all the equipment down in Vegas. There's this string that doesn't just attach to here, so this is statewide and it becomes a much bigger deal. I like to just make sure that everybody's aware of what this commission has done for the constituents of this county. It's not irresponsible, it's not reckless, and also the 50,000, it's not 50,000 we hand them and they get to keep. If they don't use all that up, we get it back. If we get to a certain point and we say, hey, this doesn't make any sense, we don't want to move on any further, they send us a check back. So I just want that to be clear for everybody that's, has a different perception of what this is or isn't. The next thing is there was some concern over us leasing out the old courthouse for $12 a month, or $12 a year. I apologize, $1 a month, and why we would do that and then upgrade that building in the process. Well, being a nonprofit, we can upgrade that building to whatever level we would like. It's a county facility, and we do that for other buildings. The preschool next door is an exact example. Now, some other nonprofits that the county does wonderful things for that is in the best interests of the constituents of Lander County is like the racetrack. Lander County, we take and we haul dirt out there for them. We haul water on it for them. We do a bunch of things for that racetrack. And they only pay us a couple bucks to take a lease on a racetrack, but it's for the better good of the whole community. No different than the golf course. We're a few $100,000 every year in debt when we open the gate on the golf course. But it's for the better of the whole community. So when we compare these things, we got to make sure that we aren't just trying to put a microscope on one thing because we don't particularly like an individual that's part of it or anything else, and that we put this in the full scope for the full community. And I can go on different other organizations that this commission funds and gives grants to and tries to keep up and operational, but that could stretch us on. I'll be asking for a closed litigation hearing here shortly because there is some updates that we need to give to just the commission. And then as far as the library, there's a question, what's going on with the library? The library, we're still in negotiations with Elko County. Currently, Elko County is running the library no different than as they were before. Nothing has changed there. They're still continued on that contract. We're on a 3-month extension. We're looking into the best options for Lander County and negotiating what would be something for a win for Lander County where we don't just sign on to grants, but they get all the goods. We want a balanced effort here moving forward. Outside of that, I am putting together a town hall meeting for the 9th. That is the Thursday after our commission meeting. And this town hall is going to be based solely around COVID. We have our local doctor that's going to speak. We'll be bringing in our health officer at the same time to speak. This will be a question and answer with the presentation of some fact-based information that they can give, because we want our community to know that there is some things that are happening that are pretty big and not live in so much fear. We have our doctor that's been giving his treatment and had 100% success rate. It may not be the politically correct as far as what people read on the news, but he's treating with ivermectin and zinc and vitamin C and vitamin D, and he is having 100% success outpatient, by the way. These aren't patients that are admitted to the hospital. He's treating them at home, sending them home, and they've had 100% success rate. That's a big number. It's not 80, it's not 50, it's 100. And I think that's important, because anyone who has a loved one that gets this, whether you've been vaccinated or not, you need to take it serious and treat it immediately. In Las Vegas last month, there were 20 of the 22 deaths were breakthrough cases. And what that means is they were vaccinated individuals. The concern with that is the people that are not vaccinated, they get it and they go in and they're trying to find treatment immediately. It's important. The people who are vaccinated are kind of going, well, I'm vaccinated, I have a chance here, and they're prolonging this. And the problem with this COVID is if you prolong it, you sometimes dig yourself a hole you can't climb back out of. So it's important, anybody that gets sick, immediately go in, try to get treated. Get your vitamin D in you, get your vitamins in you. The vitamins are a big deal. That's for all viruses. Speaking with these doctors, they say that the vitamins are huge. The vitamin D, the reason why viruses, they're just as active in the summer as the winter, as our doctor said at the previous meeting. But the reason why you don't see the major flu and the major outbreaks is in the winter, everybody is covered up, so they aren't getting the sunlight, they aren't getting the vitamin D that they need, which makes you more susceptible to viruses. So heading into the colder season, let's make sure we load up on vitamins. And outside of that, the last thing I want to address is I know that some people can't make these meetings because they're 9 in the middle of the day, and I would like everybody to know that these meetings are broadcast on YouTube. You can call in, as I can see we have a full audience today. And then also the minutes that are posted, they're delayed. So your best option is to see this on YouTube if you can't make the meeting. Feel free to write, send me an email, bramos@landercountynv.org, and I would be more than happy to read any comment that needs to go in if you can't make it to the meeting. So we want to make sure that everybody has a right to come here and speak and say their piece. We want to hear it all. Last thing is I did get a call this morning from Ms. Shar Peterson, and she said that she is hugely in support of paper ballots and that she would like me to pass that information along to this commission. That item is on the agenda, and anybody that is concerned with that, I think needs to stick around and hear that out, because it's a matter of law. This isn't something that we're doing wild willy-nilly. There's some new law that's in place, and everybody needs to be aware of that so we can move forward properly. And that's the end of my update.
Moving forward. For public comment for non-agendized items only, persons are invited to submit comments in writing and or to attend and make comments on non-agendized items at the board meeting, if any, and discussions of those comments are at the discretion of the board. All public comment may be limited to 3 minutes per person, again, at the discretion of the board. Reasonable restrictions may be placed on public comment based upon time, place, and manner, but public comment based upon viewpoint may not be restricted. So do we have any public comment at this time?
Can we ask for the people that are online first?
So absolutely. No, go ahead. So,
I've unmuted them.
okay, so go ahead. However that works. So whoever's online, Liz, does it just like take one at a time?
Yeah, when they speak, I'll see that they're speaking, and then I'll be able to mute everybody else.
Okay, all right. Is there nobody speaking? All right.
Muted.
Oh.
Unmuted.
Is there somebody there for public comment? Okay, so do we
Muted.
have any public comment
Unmuted.
at this time?
I was just wondering if it was possible to publish the minutes in the Bugle.
I can't hear you, Lori.
I was wondering if it would be possible to publish the minutes in the Bugle. We used to have a person here that would write down what was going on in our community. I know it's online. There's a lot of people that don't get online. They don't have the time. And is it possible to have the meetings later in the evening? And why has that not ever been? I mean, maybe it has been. I missed it.
We went through this 6 years ago about moving meeting time, and NRS says fiscal neutrality, so we're locked in. Fiscal neutrality. We can't have a meeting at 5 o'clock when everybody goes home,
Because of this
because then
building?
we'd have to pay overtime. So it's in the NRS.
Oh.
It's
So
not
it's about
us.
money.
It's not us.
Laura, as far as publishing the minutes per se, some of our minutes are 100 pages and more. There's no way that would be able to do that. But as far as the highlights, you're right. The Bugle used to at least do our highlights. We aren't even mentioned anymore. So I don't know about something like that.
I know Winnemucca does it, so I don't see why we can't do it.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe
either.
if they
There's
go
a
into
lot of
those.
people, like you said, there's a lot of misinformation. Maybe if something was in the Bugle after every meeting, it wouldn't be so.
It's a good idea.
So you do that.
Muted. Unmuted.
Oh, sorry. Sadie Sullivan, Lander County Clerk. We can email, which if nobody has the computers, we can go ahead and print them. We double side them. So you're gonna have 2 pages on the front, and then you're gonna have 2 pages on the back, so it'll be a little bit small. But if it's somebody that isn't able to read that small of writing, they can contact my office, and we can go ahead and print the minutes and mail them out.
Is that something that we can put into the paper so that people know that that can be done?
An advertisement if
Yes.
they like the written.
Yes.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right,
Would that be of help?
So, just so everybody knows, I think that currently Liz is working with somebody from the Bugle to try to get them to come back over
Oh,
here.
good,
Remember, we used to have somebody that would sit in the meetings
Yeah.
and, you know, give us a brief synopsis of what took place, and then the Bugle removed them, and we've had some issues with getting them back, so we're in the process of hopefully getting somebody back to these meetings.
And that has been done in the past. Minutes were mailed out, and with the change of times, a lot of people are receiving, well, the minutes have gone onto the website, so that portion of it has dwindled down a lot. But in the past, when I first came on, there was a good list of people that get the agenda mailed. It has to be on the website, has to be on the state website, and it also, let's see, state website, our website, and a mass email. So anybody can call my office and we can email out the agenda to you directly with the minutes as well. We can email minutes, and in the past, we did have long lists that did receive the minutes paper form through the mail.
okay,
So we have done it.
all right, very good, thank you. Do we have any other public comment at this time?
I have a laundry list, but it's pretty short.
Oh,
COVID protocol. First on my list.
I'm
My
sorry,
wife-
would you give us the name for the
Your
record,
name.
please?
Well, my name's Tom Kovas.
all right, thanks, Tom.
I own a car wash here in town. I've lived in town for 42 years. I'm glad Bert brought up the COVID deal. The protocol. My wife works at the rec center, and last week there was an employee that tested positive. And she never found out about it. Her boss never told her. Nobody told her. She had to investigate herself. Why wasn't this employee there? She's homesick. So what's the protocol for the county when an employee that works next to you is in the same room, your boss won't even tell you that she's out sick? You can use HEPA or HIPAA or whatever you want to call it, but there has to be a better protocol than that. I was exposed to it, my wife was exposed to it. Thank God we're vaccinated, which helps. That's one. The next thing is the voting machines. I have a question. I don't know how this works. Could you answer a question if I ask it?
This is on the agenda.
Oh, on the agenda.
Oh, it
So
is
that
on.
item
Okay,
comes
that's
back
fine.
up.
Well, that's so I can't talk about the voting
Well, yeah, we
machines?
can't discuss it, but when that
Okay,
item
well,
comes back up, we can.
what worldly reason, what cognate reason is there to seize a voting machine? I have no idea why anybody in this county would want to mess with a voting machine unless it's the woman that's in charge of it. You know the suspicion and how it undermines all the integrity of an election when a county employee or two go to seize the voting machine. That's the integrity of the United States government and our politicians and our democracy. That undermines all the integrity and the honesty of our government. You cast suspicion on our democracy by saying that, oh, there's something wrong with it. There's something wrong with it. We're still fighting it. We had a riot in Washington that one of the people that was at the riot was on our stage down here at the park. The people in Washington killed a cop or two, and the woman who was there, Simone Gold, she was in that crowd. And we venerate her. We stand with her. We're next to her. My brother-in-law was on that stage. You undermine democracy when you question voting rights in this county. There's a paper trail. If you're worried about it, go look at the paper record and look at the electronic record. That's all I'm going to say on that. Looking forward to the next pandemic. What got us through the last one? We shut down. We shut down. We didn't want to. For God's sakes, the governor, did he want to shut down the strip? No. He did it for safety's sake. You know, he did it. He did it. Could you imagine if they wouldn't have shut the strip down? If millions and millions of people would have flown into McCarran Airport with the COVID and go into the MGM? Could you imagine if they wouldn't have shut down? Okay, but I got one more thing.
No, I want to ask you a question right now.
Okay,
I want to, go ahead.
we're gonna do this
How
quiet,
many
softly.
people died in homeless encampments? That answers your story.
I'm not,
right there.
I don't want to get in with you, Art, because I know where you're coming
Okay.
from. But I have one more thing.
Enough! I'm telling you now. We're gonna talk in civil voices. Period.
Well, then you do it too.
So yes, so I'm gonna ask,
Okay.
I know that you're agitated, Tom,
Okay, no.
but in order to.
I know
try to
that,
keep order,
I
and
get,
respect
I'm
that,
glad, I'm glad that
but
you told me,
please,
I get
thank
amped
you.
up, actually, I've been
Thank
hoarse
you.
since this smoke. Okay, there's one more thing that I think needs to be done, and and you know, and I don't come to these meetings, and I trust the commissioners, and I trust the county manager to do what's right for the county, and for most part, he does. But he has an agenda, a private agenda, and he uses public office to push it, and I don't think that's right. I call that corruption. It's out and it's there, okay? And we're all subject to it, okay? I mean, he uses his public office to bring these extremists, highly armed extremists, into our town to occupy our park with guns, okay? If you think that's normal behavior, then that's fine. But the next thing I want to address is looking down the road. What single thing would make this town attractive and help us through the next pandemic? Because God knows there's going to be another pandemic, and it might be worse than this. Fiber optics. I don't know if you guys have been on it, but why don't we take our money and wire this county? Every single place there's a cable, TV cable or telephone cable should have fiber optics. Davis and SMD did it. They push a button, instantly they got their information. If we have to go to remote schooling again, what more beneficial thing do we have with fiber optics?
Which I believe that is something that we are trying to do.
There's $6.7 billion that Nevada has been awarded by the federal government. Do we have an agent talking to the state right at every week, say, hey, we want this money, we want this money? You know, the American Rescue Plan, there's $6.7 billion that the feds are giving to Nevada. And are we in on it? Do we have a dedicated agent to talk to the state? They're holding 20 meetings across the state.
They're
Well, I don't
actually
even-
they're gonna actually be having one here as well.
Okay, that's all I have to say.
So no, wait, before you leave, so
What?
I'm gonna say something to the crowd under this
Okay.
public pulp. So what happens here in Lambert County is that nobody ever comes to these
I
meetings
know.
to hear anything until everybody's pissed off. And if people, when they have time, they would come and hear and voice their opinion at that time, then we wouldn't have these big, huge blow-ups. Let me finish.
Okay.
We could deal with these issues, but what happens is, on each of these issues, you get a call, I get calls, and there are people ranting and raving and screaming and yelling.
Exactly.
And I respect that. However, come to a meeting, a public comment, and voice your opinion until everybody's so furious that they want to, hang people from the closest gallows.
Oh, I have a-
Please, yes.
I have-
So I ask, and so you're not so agitated when you come and say, hey, I have these
This is my
issues, and I
normal state.
respect it, and I respect that, I really do. But it's so much easier to deal with when people come in at the time when these things happen, so we can handle them then, instead of all at,
okay, Captain.
okay, and I respect that, I truly do.
I want to ask
But
one
go
more
ahead.
question.
Well, go ahead.
What, in my wildest dreams, I would never think there would be an item on the agenda to join the clown posse, the sheriff's constitutional. I would never, in my wildest dreams, think that would be on the agenda. But obviously it was, because we joined it, right? And we gave the guy $2,500 plus paid $40,000 for the stage. So, that's $40,000. Never in my wildest dreams. It was called the Freedom Rally. I've lived here for 42 years. I cannot name one freedom that I've lost in 42 years. Not one. Oh, I have lost one freedom. I can't shoot jackrabbits with a spotlight at night. I've been here for 42 goddamn years, excuse my language. You can buy pot now, gay people can get married, and you can drive 80 miles an hour down the freeway. We have more freedom now than we've ever had. For some reason, in this paranoid world that you people are living in, you think you're not free. You're more free now than you've ever been. So that's all I have to say. It's just the paranoid world that people living in this town is nuts.
Well,
You have public comment.
okay, all right. Stop breathing.
For sure. No, and I appreciate Tom's passion and his public comment. I'm not so appreciative of the false accusations of using my office to push an agenda, because I work at the discretion of this board, and at your guys' direction. But I would like to address a few things. One is, so the freedoms, just quickly, because it was the last one we touched on. A year and a half ago now, it was 2 weeks to slow the spread. Now, you have to show a vaccination card to travel. So you tell me if we haven't lost freedoms. And I would have to argue with that, because if you want to go to Mexico, you want to go somewhere, you have to show. So there has been some freedom loss in my opinion. Maybe we don't see it in a small in a small community like we're in, but we need to have a broader view, and this commission has to have a broader view of our freedoms and our rights. And that's one of the views that they've taken as far as when they move forward with filing a lawsuit on the state for trying to take our net proceeds. It would have taken a lot of our freedoms away. And then going back to myself and the district attorney presenting ourselves in Sadie's office. It is a NRS, which is law. It's not us trying to confiscate something that is not at the discretion of this commission. Then voting machines by NRS are supposed to be in the possession of this commission. We are not there to take anything from her or to jeopardize the safety and well-being of our voters. Sadie has every right, as the NRS states, to have a copy of every vote and to keep the hard files of them, and that's part of what we're working through as to how this comes. But the machines themselves, by law, are the property of this commission. So when myself and the district attorney presented ourselves, did we just go in there and say, we're taking the machines, by law, we're taking the machines, we're gonna have these now? No, we said, if you need to do a chain of custody to get them over to us, feel free. Sadie went and did her research, which we appreciate. Said, hey guys, there's another NRS here that says I need to have possession of these for 22 months on this and this and this, and here's my concerns. We said, no sweat. Keep the machines, we'll figure this thing out. We aren't going up there just raiding the machine. We aren't two bullies walking into Sadie's office trying to bulldoze in. Because what we are trying to do is follow the letter of the law. So whatever was miscommunicated there, I hope that I've just cleared it up for all of the public to know. Because there's some clear miscommunications.
All right. So, any more public comment?
Can I comment on the?
You can come up.
on the bill?
You got to come up.
Before I grab my crutches, I just wanna make sure I
Here.
can actually.
Oh, you can. You're absolutely.
It's the bill, so it is an agendized item, I
Take your
guess.
time.
Thank you.
Did you say it was an agendized item?
Well, it's the bill. the
So just wait
retainer.
until, if,
Should I wait?
sit in the front row for me,
Okay.
and as soon as that we come up to bills, I'm gonna pull that out.
Okay, and then we can
discuss it.
Perfect,
All right,
thank
so
you.
just have a seat up front for me. And so anything other than that, do we
No.
have?
No.
No, anyone else? I wanna make sure, are we good to move forward? Okay. All right. Oh, I did actually. I forgot mine because of all the excitement. So I wanted to say on the library. I went to, because I'm very interested in this, so I went to Round Mountain Day before yesterday to look at their library, which is absolutely incredible. It's probably the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And so it really truly was exciting. I didn't want to leave. They have the most incredible things. They have 3D printers for their kids. I mean, it's it's incredible. Anybody I think all of us at some time should go down there before we vote on anything to look at that library. And so I asked them how they afford it, because it's been said that the mine just pays for it. And they said, no, that's not how it works. It actually, and I know nobody wants to levy a tax, but they actually levied, they put a small percentage tax, and that's how that library runs. But truly, I really would ask anybody on this board to go down there and speak with those two women, or they would be happy to come up here and explain what they do. It really truly is one of the coolest things I've ever seen, short of that huge one in Reno, and it's in that little, they only have 800 people in that town, and it's really cool, and I would wish when we're moving forward on ours, that we are open-minded to try to do some really cool projects in there. So, I mean, they even come and have gymnastics. They move their things across and kids do gymnastics in it. It's just incredible, so,
Gymnastics in the library?
yeah, their cabinets are pushed to the side, and they allow the little kids to do gymnastics in the middle on the floor. It's just really cool, so I'm so excited. So anyhow, moving forward.
Mrs. Ancho, I would have a public comment.
All right, you wanna come
Yeah.
up, please?
I'm Andrew Warwood, and I'm about a third generation member of this community, I would say. And I did have a Facebook comment that I posted. My concern was the renovations to the old courthouse. And I don't normally post things on Facebook, but in many of the circles that I walk in, there's a lot of miscommunication or misunderstanding there's a lot of support I've heard for the High Desert Education Group that's coming in, and I support that as well for an option for our community. What the concern that I've been hearing from a lot of the people that I associate with is actually what the long-term plans for the building are, understanding that the building is in a pretty severe state of disrepair. 3-year contract is great, and putting out money into the community is awesome. I support that 100% and support the education of our students. But I am concerned for the long-term plans for that building, the amount of money that we're going to put into that building, and what we are planning to do with that building if that 3-year contract expires and they have no desire to pursue that course anymore. So that is my main concern in the public comment.
Okay, 6 years ago, when we moved in here, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when we moved in here, we had a town hall meeting over the building in question. Numerous people from Lander County wanted us to preserve that. It would have been easy to just knock it down and haul it to the dump, but it's historic preservation prevailed with that building.
I understand historic preservation.
We gave a grant to get started on it, and they've done the footwork for becoming a 501c3.
501c3.
Yeah, whatever. And they still have money that they're gonna put into the renovation, so through the historical money, we can renovate it and still have it owned by the county. So it's not gonna cost the county a whole lot to get it renovated, and they wanna take it back to historical significance. So that was decided 5 years ago.
Okay. And then after, what are we going to do with the building?
There were all kinds of ideas, one putting the library in there, having a quilting guild in there, having office spaces in there, put a coffee shop in there. There was a bunch of different ideas for that.
And see, this is where I think that the community and the board are at odds, is 5 and 6 years ago, we had this conversation, but when we've revisited it at this time, with the High Desert Education and the school going in, we haven't revisited those ideas. So the money's there. 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, we talked about that. We talked about turning it into a historical, or bringing it back to its historical status, which is great. But
we've revisited this several times. They've come to us with their progress and what they've been doing.
I listened to the last few commissioner meetings, and when we talked about High Desert Education and we talked about restoring the building, we haven't talked about a future plan for the building. And I think a library would be a great idea for that building or something like that, but that's not something that I've heard about lately.
Oh, but
and it's
was,
caused a
because
lot
I was
of.
one of them that stated that probably when we very first started talking about that. The other thing I had asked is to put part of it into a Indian museum so Indians could get their artifacts back. I had also mentioned that a handful of times. So there really is, I think what happens is, once again, people get interested. They do, this goes like this.
We're in a 5-year cycle is what it sounds like to me, where we haven't discussed this, and so it's fresh for a lot of people, and we do have a lot of new people in the community.
You know why they don't, sir? Is because what happens is when it all starts, just like I said, everybody gets excited, and then you can't chase down and pull somebody's hair to get them to come to a meeting about this. And because unless it's something that upsets everyone, nobody comes. So it goes on deaf ears, and I'm not meaning that insultingly at all, but I've had over the last year to try to drag people to come to different things, and unless it's like this and we have an outrage on stuff, which I totally respect. This is how the
I don't feel like
it
is outrageous.
No, that's not what I'm
I feel like
talking.
it's very respectful.
I'm saying in general on stuff. Unless you have an outcry on stuff that really has angered people, you can't find one person in this audience. And this has to be like this all the time, so we as a commission know what people want, because if not, you can't chase them down and say, what do you want? Because nobody wants to be involved, and I'm not meaning that insultingly at all. By all means, please come, because I've been one of the ones that have said, oh my gosh, a library would be a good idea, but it's been probably in the last 6 months since we started talking about the library, this library, that we've asked Amy to come in, and they've given their their ideas on stuff. And so it's kind of been a hit and miss as far which meetings they are, but we've discussed it because I've actually thrown out ideas on stuff. So, and I respect and I appreciate you being here. But I think you need to be here more. People need to be here more and hear what's going on. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah,
as far
that
as
was
the
great.
building?
Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you
as
so
far
much.
as I know, we haven't changed direction on the different things that we wanted to get in there.
So, any further public comment on? All right, moving forward.
Kathy, hopefully we can do our closed litigation real quick because we were hoping to hit that at 9:30, but the public comment bounced on a little long.
So are we going just for a few minutes? All right, so we're just going to go for just a few minutes. If everybody please stay. We're going to do a quick litigation meeting. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Muted. Unmuted. This conference will now be recorded.
Good to go? All right, so we're going to close out from litigation and go back into regular meeting. We're going to start with the consent agenda. All matters are listed under consent agenda are considered routine and may be acted upon by the board and commissions with one action without extensive discussion. Any member of the board or citizen may request that any item be taken from the consent agenda, discussed and acted upon separately at this meeting. Consent agenda materials are available at the Lander County Clerk's office for viewing, and copies are available for a nominal fee. 1, approval of August 26, 2021 agenda notice. Number 2, approval of July 12, 2021 special budget, special meeting minutes. Number 3, approval of July 22nd, 2021 special minutes. 4, approval of August 12th, 2021 meeting minutes. Number 5, approval of payroll change requests. So I have a motion. So which ones do we have as far as minutes?
Oh, I didn't receive any payroll change requests, and I didn't receive any minutes. So that leaves us with number 1, and I make a motion we approve number 1, which is the agenda notice.
I'll second Kathy.
All right. Patsy made the motion and Brian second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Aye.
All right, very good, thank you. For discussion of possible action to approve or disapprove the payment of bills, I have to pull out a few things. For point S, it'll be check number 212844, and then check number 212784.
785.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
785, and then I'm not sure what ETF means, and I'm sorry for that number. That's the 1848. Is that what that is?
It's electronic.
Okay, so I'd like for discussion, because I have some questions on that. Okay.
Madam Chair, also, there's a person in the audience who says that she wants to discuss something, so the Nevada revised statutes contemplate that a person from the audience can ask that a bill be pulled out for discussion too.
Okay.
So I think it'd be appropriate to ask the person if that's what she wants to do.
I did not bring the bill number with me, but it would be the retainer bill for Joey.
And I have that number here, if you'll bear with me just one moment.
Kathy, isn't that the one?
It's the one I just said. It's a electronic payment number 18. There's not a check number. It's a reference number 1848. Okay, so are we?
That's the one for the
Yes?
retainer? Yeah,
Yes.
I'd like to have that pulled.
All right, very good.
as well.
All right.
I'll make a motion we approve the balance of the bills that were not just pulled out.
All right, second.
I'll second it.
So Patsy made the motion, Brian second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so on the check, guys,
I'll make a motion that we approve check number 212844 and 212785, which are to point S.
all right, I'll second that.
Okay.
All right. So Patsy made the motion, Kathy second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I
Aye.
abstain there to my employer.
All right, very good. So then, on the electronic payment for 1848, so Mike, I have a couple questions. With that, because you had mentioned, Bert, that it was a retainer for, what, three attorneys?
You just spoke to her.
Oh, yes, okay. All right. So then does that, with doing that, because under other ones that we've done, we've had contracts. Do we not have to have contracts or something like that?
We do. We do have a contract with Joey Gilbert, and they are within that contract.
Okay, is that something that's already been brought in front of us?
Yes, the county commission already approved this in closed litigation prior to approving us to move forward with this as a whole. It was actually approved as unanimously amongst you guys.
Okay, so this is where part of the part I was confused about, and I've asked about that. Under closed litigation, I thought when you had something like that you had a conversation in there, and then you had to bring it back out here and vote publicly for it. Because you can't vote for anything in closed litigation, it has to be brought back out in front of the public.
We didn't take a vote in closed
Because
litigation.
like I say, you can't vote on something, I thought it had to be voted back, brought,
That
so
is
isn't
correct.
that something that needs to be brought back?
If it's agendized.
It has to be,
Bert signed the retainer agreement, and he believed that he had gotten approval
okay.
in the litigation meeting to proceed and move forward.
So is it something that we need to put it back on the agenda so it can be voted on, since you can't vote on anything in that?
That's privilege, we can't put that contract, the retainer agreement is a privileged document.
So, and I'm not, so when we did, for the gentleman for the building, for this building, and,
What we can agendize.
wait 1 second, let me finish.
They can't hear Ted, I just got a message, the last time.
The
Okay.
mic's not on.
It's on.
It's
It was
on.
over here.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
so,
We can put on the agenda the issue of, well, do we want to retain the services of so-and-so? But
Okay.
the contract would be, is part of the privileged communications.
And the approval is actually for us to ratify when the amount comes up. That's what comes before us.
Right.
that makes no sense, because when we did it for the building, that day, we had them here. And
There was no, it was not, there was no attorney-client privilege with the building.
So why, make me understand what the difference is between that,
The county commissioners in closed litigation meeting decided to take certain steps for potential and actual litigation in the future. And you asked, you don't recall that?
I know, I recall that, but that's where my confusion is.
No, Kathy, we never vote on any, there's never an agenda item on any of our legal people that we contract with.
Yeah, very much like
Only
we
the
did-
payment.
Yes, very much like we did when we filed on the net proceeds. So it's the same.
Well, all of our
same process.
lawsuits.
Yes,
All
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 of
of our
that.
lawsuits,
But the most
lawsuits.
recent would be the net proceeds, if you can recall that this is following the same steps as we have with every other one. This is
Okay,
not, this is not a
so
new
the
process.
so if I'm understanding, so this retainer is falling under a lawsuit in
Yes.
general, that 3 attorneys, it's not just one attorney, 3 attorneys are.
Yes.
And a lot of that is not even public information, that's within our attorney-client privilege, however, we're, trying to be as transparent as possible even with that much
Well,
information.
yeah, well, and I understand that, but I mean, that's, so, okay, so who, for public, do we wait for public comment, or does it get
No,
voted on?
No,
first, or-
see, they can talk.
Okay.
She can talk about it.
Yeah,
Let me hobble up there, hold on. My name's Jenny Martin, from the
Okay.
Record.
And I'm here as a private citizen. I don't want anything to be misconstrued like I'm representing any type of department. And I appreciate your comments about people needing to come forward more often and be present at the meetings. The issue that I've been presented with a lot of other community members that feel the same way I do is that when they watch meetings, they see people come for public comment and get yelled at. They see other board members get yelled at. And that's not, a lot of people in the community feel like you guys are gonna make up your minds the way you wanna do anyways. So our public comment does not matter. I do appreciate what you all do. I appreciate what Bert does. My question about the bill would be, have we used Mr. Gilbert's law firm before for this type of legal representation? Because it looks disingenuous to people like me in the community to have a rally where thousands of dollars were spent to have an association come and present us with somebody with a plaque. But one of the guest speakers who was very publicized was Mr. Gilbert. I am staunchly opposed to Mr. Gilbert's views. Most people know that. But then a few months later, now in the bills, and I am very familiar with attorney-client privilege based on my background, but now a couple months later, there's a bill in our packet for $50,000 to Joey Gilbert, who's also running a campaign at the same time. And I get it. If it's not going directly to Joey Gilbert, I understand that. I get it. I've worked with his office when I spent a decade in Washoe County. I understand he's got other attorneys there. It just looks disingenuous to the public. That's my issue.
Well, it looks like we might have paid him for coming to the rally, for example. So I understand
It
the
looks like
concerns.
maybe you paid him for coming to the rally, and I was opposed to paying those bills too. I didn't attend it. People know my views on that. That's fine. Like Commissioner Clark said, that's the great thing about being in our country is we can all have different views and be opposed to each other, and hopefully we can all come together at the end of the day. The problem is this looks awful to a lot of people, and yes, Facebook's horrible. The comments on Facebook are awful. I've been dealing with that with my position at the school district for months now. But this was not something that I was very happy to see. And I understand as an entity, you guys are facing many lawsuits all the time. I'd just like to know why Joey Gilbert's law firm was selected this time.
Thank you.
Doug Staten, for the record. I come before you as a private citizen, not in my capacity as a trustee of the Lander County School Board. I have some questions. What meeting was it discussed that Joey Gilbert was going to be retained as counsel for the county?
Once again, it was discussed in the litigation meeting.
I understand that, but doesn't it have to, was there not a vote, not any sort of approval for Bert to sign a contract with Joey Gilbert?
Bert can sign a check up to $50,000. He has that
Okay.
ability. So
What-
if he used that ability, that's how the
Okay.
check was cut.
That's fine.
It was explained about how we arrived with Joey Gilbert and two other attorneys.
What does Joey Gilbert's law firm bring to the table that our district attorney and assistant district attorney do not bring to the table?
People.
Can you elaborate on that, Commissioner Clark?
Well, they hire, Ted and I can't do this together. They have the county to take care of. If you would use Ted Herrera and High Forgeron, you would have a better understanding of the law.
Doug, I think it's maybe areas of specialization. Maybe
Okay.
it might be the correct
Okay.
wordage for it.
What is the scope of Joey Gilbert's representation of the county?
I can't really get into that.
Okay. Have lawsuits been filed on behalf of the county by Joey Gilbert?
No.
Not at all? So it's a potential lawsuit that's being filed,
That's, yes.
okay? And I believe Bert said earlier that whatever part of the retainer doesn't get used gets returned. Do we get an itemized billing from Joey Gilbert about what he's done to earn the portion of the retainer that he's keeping?
All of our attorney bills come itemized. We
Okay.
don't get a bill that is not itemized.
Okay.
Whether we can release all them to the public, depending on what that is, as
Sure.
you well know.
Yeah, I'm aware of that
yes.
in my position.
So all bills come itemized.
But I do know that in my position, when we have a contract with an attorney to provide representation for our entity, that contract is presented in an open meeting and voted on by the trustees.
So I would just want to clarify, in your position, what you're referring to is the school board, correct?
That's correct.
Correct. So they're representing the school board.
That's correct.
Correct. So that is an item. However, we have our representation for our board. They're already here.
Okay?
This is representation for something that is a bigger scope than just this.
Okay?
So does that, I hope that clears that up a little bit.
It's really not clearing it up for me, Bert. I'm sorry. I believe there should be some sort of contract of representation. And that contract of representation should be approved in a public meeting by the commission in the efforts to present as transparent a process as you can. We've had complaints filed against us on the board because we had an ongoing agreement with an attorney, but not a written contract. So we went to that attorney. We obtained a written contract for representation for the board and for the district. We voted and presented that contract in a public meeting.
The answer to that is simple, is you voted for an attorney to defend your board openly, so there is no attorney-client privilege. It's just, he's gonna defend our board. We have our attorney that's gonna defend our board. That's what they're gonna do. What we're looking into is attorney-client privilege, so we cannot put that on an agenda to be approved, because then we've lost attorney-client privilege. So that is a very distinct two differences. Our attorney that is representing our board is here full-time and on the payroll. So we don't present that contract in front of this, because it's not just a general statement. If we were just hiring them generally to have them on a retainer, then we would put it in front of the board. However, we're hiring them for a specific purpose, and when it's hired for a specific purpose, that's where the attorney-client privilege comes in, and it happens behind closed doors during closed litigation. So that is the separation there. That's
Okay.
what I'm trying to get. Is that clear?
It's getting a little clearer.
If we don't proceed in the potential litigation, then we will no longer require the services of that investigator or attorney or whoever it is.
And if we don't proceed in this litigation, would the entire $50,000 retainer be returned to the county?
Only what's not used, Mr. Stanton.
So
attorneys are working on our behalf, and they are entitled to get paid for it.
Well, of course, I absolutely agree
And
with
that's
that.
taken out of the retainer.
Okay, so they're working on our behalf whether or not we file any sort of litigation.
Well, that's,
They're doing the research.
you have,
Okay.
you have to have good faith to file a lawsuit.
Right, I understand that as well.
So, and they're specialized, we cannot, let me put it this way. We cannot advertise to the people that we may sue in the future.
Well, of course
that
not.
we're gonna sue them. And
Sure.
that's what you're advocating.
It-
It is.
It's not what I'm trying to advocate, because I understand that you can't tell somebody, hey, we might sue you later on down the road.
But
it really, I have to agree with Ms. Martin, it really,
you don't,
I'm not sure that it's a good position for the county to be
you're
in.
not objecting to the process, you're objecting to the person. That's what.
Primarily, yeah,
Okay.
I
You
am.
don't like Joey Gilbert.
It has nothing to do with whether or not I like Joey Gilbert.
Well, obviously it does.
No,
but
it
yeah.
does not. It's the appearance of impropriety by retaining Joey Gilbert, who not only is he in a campaign for governor,
Yeah.
not only has he filed a potentially 300,000 member class action lawsuit against the Clark County School District, the governor, and the attorney general. The fact that one of the attorneys, and I don't know if this particular attorney is working on our stuff, but one of his attorneys is also running either for a lieutenant governor or attorney general in connection with his campaign. We've got two people, at least, that are running for higher office, that are in the midst of researching a major civil rights lawsuit for also, I've read the lawsuit that Joey filed against, or Mr. Gilbert, I shouldn't have used his first name, that Mr. Gilbert filed against Clark County. They're anticipating a class of well over 10,000 people trying to get that certified as a class action lawsuit. It seems to me that there may be other attorneys out there that may be as well equipped to handle this litigation, that are not running for governor, that are not giving the appearance of impropriety because he appeared at the Freedom Rally here with the CSPOA in May, that his staff is not running for higher office in this state. It seems that there are other attorneys that we could have found that would be able to dedicate more time to what we need to protect our county for that $50,000 than Joey Gilbert Law.
So you are complaining about who?
I believe that there are other people out there that are as well equipped that are not having their
So it's
activities
about
tied
who we
up.
picked.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Well, it is, it's
That's what I
obvious.
just said.
So, but for the record, there's no one on his staff that I'm aware is running for public office.
He has an attorney in his office that is listed in the lawsuit that was filed against the Clark County School District. She is running either for lieutenant governor or attorney general in 2022.
So,
I'd have to look at the lawsuit to get her name, but I'd be happy to do that. She was also involved in the lawsuit that Joey Gilbert Law filed on behalf of Calvary Chapel in Dayton against the disparity between how religious organizations were treated during the lockdown as opposed to secular
In
organizations.
federal court.
In federal court, that's correct.
You believe that that's one of his staff members?
I believe that that is one of his staff members.
Okay, I wasn't, I'm not so sure about that.
And as I said the last time I was here in March, I could be wrong. If I am wrong, I'll come back and I'll own up to it. But I believe that she's on his staff, working with him in his law firm, and she's also running for higher office.
Well,
Doug?
no one is, no, you have to put in your name to run for office. And that time is not even close to being here. So when you say they're running for office, you're saying that they're going to run for office?
I'm saying that they have started the campaign process to run for higher office, which is exactly what Joey Gilbert has done, which is exactly what Adam Laxalt has done, which is exactly what Dean Heller has done. They have all expressed and started their campaigns that they're going to run for governor. And I know that Mr. Gilbert is touring the state in connection with his campaign to run for governor. With that sort of time constraint, how much time can he possibly devote to the issues that we're facing, that we're anticipating litigation about in Lander County?
That's,
so just, I mean, we're starting to beat a dead horse here, but, the one thing that I'd like to say is we didn't just go select Joey Gilbert. He came referred from an attorney that has done some outstanding work for Lander County that was conflicted out. And the issue that we are facing with what we are facing is it is extremely hard to find an attorney in the state of Nevada that is not conflicted out on what we are looking at. And that is a little bit deeper than even I should go into, but that is the fact of the matter. It's not a matter of we just like Joey Gilbert, so we called Joey and picked Joey. This was a referral from an attorney that was conflicted out that we would personally, I would prefer to have. And I can't speak for Ted, but I would say that the attorney that's conflicted out was one that this whole commission respects and has been nothing but good to Lander County. So,
And in response to that, Bert, I would say that statement right there helps give a little bit of transparency to this decision. That's information that was not out. And I understand that you are skating on that very, very thin line of attorney-client privilege. I understand that. But when the board packet comes out and there's a $50,000 retainer fee to Joey Gilbert Law that nobody else knows about, that's never been discussed, and I understand why, but has never been discussed, and the community looks at that, it doesn't look good. It looks, and I'm not even sure that, I don't want to use the word shady or underhanded or anything like that, but it doesn't look good for the county.
Stanton, the board has not decided whether to make a lawsuit or not.
Okay.
What usually happens, if it's a matter that my staff can do, we do the research, we submit a report, and we make a recommendation. That's what we're asking a larger firm to do.
Okay.
And the larger firm out of Las Vegas that we utilize was unable to do it because of a conflict, so he requested that we hire someone else to do it. And they're going to investigate the potential cause of action and give us their recommendation. Based on that recommendation, the county commissioners will decide whether or not they follow it. And it will probably be agendized at that point.
Okay.
If they do so. This is just the research and the recommendation on how to proceed. If there, for instance, hypothetically, we could get a report that says no cause of action exists. It's done.
Right. And then so what you're saying is, and let me play the other side of that hypothetical. If you do get a recommendation that a cause of action exists and it's appropriate and beneficial for the county to file litigation.
Not necessarily. That's what that's
Right,
that's
but
policy
if that-
decision they will make.
Right,
at that time.
if that recommendation happens, at that time, it would come before the commission on an agenda in the public to file suit, or would that just
Not
be,
necessarily.
okay?
Doug, did you follow us on the net proceeds of Mines lawsuit?
I did not,
You should have,
unfortunately.
because that explains the whole
My,
procedure. Doug, you're not gonna give the playbook to the people that you're gonna sue. You're not gonna tell them who's gonna run the ball, and you're not gonna tell them who catches the ball. That's the nature of a lawsuit, right?
I appreciate that.
And again, we're not saying we're gonna sue anyone. I want the record reflect
Right,
that.
right, and I understand that, and I hope that everyone listening understands it as well, that this is not, we haven't sued anybody.
No.
We're doing the research behind whether or not we have any sort of cause of action to file a
In our
lawsuit.
last lawsuit that Trollo brought up a couple of times on our mining tax, that was well thought out prior to filing a lawsuit.
Right,
And then it was litigated.
That was
And,
my example.
and Lander County's was on the lawsuit, and it was a matter of open record at that time.
right,
And then others joined us. We started it.
right, and
Other
I know
counties-
that there were other counties that joined in that
Somebody's gotta
lawsuit.
start it, Doug.
So, I'm not saying that the Lander County Commission decided to file a lawsuit against anyone, because that's
Right,
not.
and that has not
they
happened.
haven't.
Right,
Okay.
okay.
Doug, I can appreciate what you're saying, but the whole part of it is Lander County is involved in a number of lawsuits.
Sure.
And many of them are never this highlighted, like net proceeds and such. So those hit the papers and eventually,
Right.
somebody will say, hey, they are doing this. Most of them you never see, whether it's our levy or who we're against or whatever. So it doesn't come before commissioners for us to say, yes, we're gonna sue. You will never see that on an
Okay,
agenda.
all right,
Doug, I'd like to point out too, I mean, you
Sure.
brought up a very good point. You've seen it come up, you're in here addressing us. It's the same how all these boards work.
Mm-hmm.
You get the agenda, we're like, hey, what's this all about? It might not, all the transparency is not communicated on that agenda item.
Sure.
But it's like, it's enough, just like, I wanna be interested in that, and I wanna go talk about it and find out what it's about. So
Hence-
I can
hence my
appreciate the fact.
presence right here.
Yeah, I can appreciate that fact, so that's what I'm saying,
so, no, and I appreciate the explanations, and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? All of you, nobody else in the public comment? Come up more. I know you hate that, sorry.
I really appreciated what Mr. Staton said. I think that's the concern that many of us had. But coming up here too, Art, you want us to say things that you might not agree with, but you do get very upset when somebody says something you don't agree with. So it's hard for people to come up here and say something. But yes, we were all concerned, and I have to ask you, aren't you just a little bit concerned about Joey Gilbert and that connotation that he has right now? Obviously you're not. So we are, some of us, I am. Obviously Mr. Staton was too, and there's several other people out in the community that feel the same way. So that's where we're at.
If you need to go to the doctor and you need some medication, but you don't like the guy, you gotta go anyway. Likes and dislikes don't enter into this, it's who's the qualified person.
Well, it's
And I
not
know
even
that
the
some
likes or the
people-
dislikes.
You know, a lot of
It's the
progressives are
connotation
against
he has
Joey
behind
Gilbert
his
and
name.
the things that he believes in.
Hey, guys,
Okay.
we might be slightly getting off topic.
Okay, all right, so I still have comment on this as well. And so, my understanding on all of this was that it was, the funding was gonna go somewhere else and be distributed differently. And so, I'm just gonna say that. And, but, we're gonna go ahead and do a vote, whoever wants to make the motion to pay Joey Gilbert, that retainer fee of on the EFT 1848.
I'll make a motion to pay.
Okay, so Brian. Yeah,
You guys aren't really voting on this, you guys are just ratifying a bill,
a bill, we're
yes.
ratifying the pay.
We pulled the bill, but
Oh, okay.
we have to vote to pay
And
it.
so it has
Oh,
to
you
be
guys didn't have
voted,
that, okay.
So it's being, so Brian made the motion, who's gonna second it?
JR did.
JR. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I am. And
I-
the reason I am, and you can all just be as pissed off as you want it, is because that's not the way I understood that the involvement. I didn't understand that he was the head of it that way. And I struggle with that, because my understanding, I understand the whole encompass of what's going on. I didn't understand that he was the head of it and it was going to be done that way. My understanding was different, not that I'm not that I'm for doing what we're doing moving forward, but I still have issue with him as the retainer and it not going a different way, and that's, so.
Well, I'm really confused, Kathy,
Okay, go ahead.
because he's not the head of anything.
He is the way I'm looking at it,
Well,
he
that's
is
the way you're looking at it.
and that's my opinion, that's why you guys are all voted yay, and I vote nay, and I respect that, I do, but
There's a big difference between the
Are
head
there-
of something and a spokesperson.
We need to move on. We're
okay,
getting
so,
Adeline.
they all, it passed, okay? So-
Well, I do want to say one thing for the record and for our folks that are out here, because when this was discussed, and I don't want you to think it was absolutely unanimous, it was a very heavy discussion about using this law firm. And there are many concerns, some of them being expressed, some of them not. But I want you to know that when we deliberate very, very cautiously and very thoroughly. We really do. And there are some concerns about the name. So with that, we concurred to go forward, and that's what we are doing. Thank you.
And so I will own the lack of understanding and not asking more questions, I will own that myself, and so going to.
I just have a comment, if I may. Sadie Sullivan for the record. In regards to Lori's comment, it is hard to come up here. Whether you're elected, you're the public, you're an employee, it's just difference of personalities. And we've seen it today, we see it often, and this person has opinion and this person has opinion. Just respect it. We're here to work together as a team in Lander County, and I can have great discussions. I've had great discussions with everybody. We are going to have differences. So it is hard, like I stated, for public. Some people will come 2-3 times. They'll do hit and miss depending on their work schedule. But when you get knocked down or slammed or, talked to, belittled, disrespected, whatever you want to call it, you don't want to bring your ass back up here because you don't get the respect. We're here to hear what has to be said, and it is very disheartening to come up here because some of us are elected, some are voters, some are employees. We are still all equal, and that's where this county has lost a little bit of, we've gotten sidetracked on it. I will tell you in previous meetings, when it goes to get out of hand, it used to be like, let's shut this down. Let's don't get it that way. And that's, Kathy did the same, today. But also, in my opinion, the fellow boards, the legal, whatever have you, Bert, whomever, let's just, as a team, instead of it getting risen the way that it does and people do get fired up, it needs to be shut down way beforehand. And Kathy had said that together earlier. If you have an item, come in and approach it instead of 4, 5, 10, 20, whatever items. But anyway, it is hard to come up here, no matter who you are, if you have been belittled, whatever wording you want to say. So anyway, that was my comment to Lori Price.
All right,
Thank you.
okay, all right. Are we able to move forward?
I hope so.
All right, very good, all right. So, moving forward, for discussion and possible action, formally adopt a job description for Argenta Justice Court bailiff and either modify delete or agree the duties pertaining to the security of the administration building, okay?
And Denise, you asked for this, right?
I did.
Okay.
As some background before the judge gets into this, the judge came in front of the commission with a prior agenda request and asked for the job to be financed, the job that she created. And when she did that, she did a job description, and she put that in the packet. And then we discussed it, and it was moved and carried that her position as a bailiff would be financed. Now, the judge thought that the job description had been approved at the same time, and it hadn't been. And so she was under the understanding that since in the job description, it gave her bailiff duties as security. And that's where we are now, because technically this board did not approve the security part of that because they didn't approve the job description. And am I accurate so far, Denise?
Kind of. There's more to it than that.
Okay.
But,
All right.
so Denise Fortune for
Okay.
the record, for our General Justice Court.
Okay.
I am here regarding my bailiff. My bailiff is here and has questions that she would like answered. As her employer, I am her employer, she came to me with questions that I couldn't answer. I assumed certain things, and you know what they say about assume. As for her job description, HR helped me with this job description. On number 5 of the job description, it says maintain security throughout the entire administrative building when not in court. That was submitted to you guys the first time around back in 2019. And if I say her or Nolina, I apologize. It's not directed at Nolina. Mike Johnson was my bailiff at that time. There will be another bailiff long after me, long after Nolina. It's just for the position we need clarification on. I say clarification, which Mr. Herrera and I had a conversation. I tried to put this on the agenda a couple weeks ago. And Mr. Herrera came to me and said I needed to be more asked in a better way of what I was trying to actually find out.
More specifically?
Apparently, I keep saying clarification, and apparently clarification is not the right word to use. So if I say clarification and it's not the right word, that's what I need. I need clarification. So that's the word.
What we have to do, Commissioner, and I'm not disagreeing with anything she's saying. What we have to do is decide the two things I believe you need to decide. One is whether you're going to use her bailiff as security for the building. And then if yes, then you're going to decide what the parameters of that are. And if you say no, then you're going to ask, in approving the job description, you're going to ask that be taken out or modified or something added to it.
Can I say something?
Number 5, the way I understood that is that if we had somebody at a counter and they became loud, abusive, that the bailiff would be available
Correct.
to go down and say, hey, whoa, hold on here a second, just,
Correct.
cool yourself down.
Correct.
That's the way I understood
Correct.
that. That's the only thing I remember from discussion when we did this. Not that Nolina needs to be on patrol and be walking up and down and up the stairs and
But
around.
she does. She
But
takes
if
it
she got
upon
a call-
herself to check in with every single elected official in this building twice a day. She takes her job as bailiff very seriously.
Let me add this too, just because this is what I remember, Denise, from the original conversation when we funded the position was you were concerned about your safety in the courtroom.
Yes.
So we looked at the bailiff position, and if I'm not mistaken, I wish we could have seen the whole minutes from it, but I remember that that's where their time is they were going to reside, but that wasn't a full-time thing, so.
Correct.
Just to make just to justify a full-time position and the money spent, that they would, kind of walk around and check what's going on in the courthouse and that kind of thing.
Yes,
But
sir.
my understanding when we filled it, it was primarily for the court's
The court,
security.
correct.
Because, I mean, we always have our sheriff or undersheriff here at our meetings, and it's like, and I see Nolina that sits in here, but it's like, I don't know if it's necessarily needed, and that's not a slam on you, because we do have law enforcement
Correct,
here.
correct.
But that was my understanding going
Correct.
clear back
Correct.
when we talked about putting a bailiff there for you was for the
Yes.
court's security,
Yes.
because, Max was a male and you felt like,
Yes,
being
correct.
female, you want, am I
Yes,
correct in that? Okay.
yes,
I
yes.
just wanted to make sure I was
Yes.
recalling the meeting
And
correctly, so.
that because of am I correct with this, as far as the domestic violence and having a trial, it was
Right.
unfunded mandate that you had a bailiff?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
to make sure I'm
Yes.
remembering correctly.
I
Was
have to
was there a
have,
mandate that was involved in that? I don't recall
on a
that.
domestic battery, jury, domestic battery, if they go to they've always been allowed to have a bench trial. Now they have the option to go to a full-blown jury trial.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, I have to have a bailiff.
Gotcha.
Unfunded
In,
mandate, it was.
yes, it's and funded by the county or
Which, I mean,
in my
even-
budget or whatever.
Right, but we could have.
Which you're correct, that's the purpose. The purpose is, the number one purpose of me coming to you 2 years ago to get a bailiff was for the protection of the court, the people in court, anything to do with the court. The bailiff is there to protect us. Because it was not, I am in court every day of the week, but I'm not in court for 40 hours a week. So when I came to you to ask of her job duties, her job description, whatever, it was to also be a police presence, an officer, just like the Lander County officers. She does the same training as they do. They include her as having one of these guys as presence in the courthouse for everybody. Something goes south down at DMV, something goes south at district court, which it did a couple weeks ago outside the hallway. We have somebody inside the courthouse that can protect us, that carries a gun. It's legal to carry a gun, use a gun, that kind of
You
thing.
have a presence in the
That's
space.
what I understood.
So there's never been any question of that, and we've been doing that for 2 years. What the issue was, what started this whole thing, is that my bailiff came to work one day and no longer had view of the cameras. She couldn't see the cameras anymore. My bailiff has always had view of the cameras, so that she can watch when she's in her office what's going on outside where the cameras are located. She had lost view. So she came to me and said, hey, I lost view to the cameras. I told her to go talk to Anna. She talked to Anna. Anna had also lost view of the cameras. So then I had called Mr. Ramus. I had called Bert and said, hey, my bailiff doesn't have view of the cameras. She needs it back. So he gave her back view of the cameras. She got it back. But then my bailiff came to me and said, okay, I don't have the access to the cameras that I did have. What do we do? So that's why I'm here. She's my employee. She came to me as my employee and asked me questions that I could not answer. So I looked at her job description, and it says maintain security throughout the entire building. Mr. Herrera said her job description was never adopted by you guys formally. I did not know it had to be. I have 3 other employees that has never been adopted for you for their job description because they don't need to be. I did not know that you formally had to adopt. So Mr. Herrera said, first off, I need to come to you guys to get it formally, her job description, or changed or whatever. Nolina has questions about the security of the building, if she is truly security of the building, that I can't answer. So that's why she's here. So that you, as the commissioners, Not me as the judge or anybody else telling her what she should or should not have access to. You guys, as security of the building, which isn't my problem. My office, my court for now, for the next rest of my term, is my problem. The rest of the county is your guys's.
Well, fortunately, they did put the actual minutes in when we took a look at this, that there was a lot of support in it. Kathy made the quote, "I think it's nice to have security in the building," because even our current chair at the time, our county chairman said he thinks it's good, it's a benefit. When they're not being used upstairs, it will be a deterrent within the entire courthouse. I think we all were on the same page of where we were. When the motion was made, it was made by Commissioner Clark, and he said, I will make a motion that we fund a bailiff for the Argenta Justice Court the way it's presented by Judge Fortune. So with that, we really thought that we had included your backup information. We understand the DA saying we want it clearer. So with that, I will make a motion.
Well,
Commissioners,
yes.
So there's some questions she asked.
There is
I
some
don't- I wanna
questions that my
clarify.
bailiff
Yeah,
has.
yeah.
with what
We still
that
can answer the
entails.
questions.
but also I need to point out if you, and I don't have an opinion on this one way or the other. If you decide to adopt this and let her be security for the building also, then know that she won't be working for the county, she'll be working for the judge.
Right.
So the person who has security of the building will not answer in any way to the county.
So I think is what started
You're
this.
gonna have security that doesn't answer to you.
That's right, it's Denise's employee, not the county's employee.
You need to understand that.
Correct.
But we knew,
That's why I made the point, we have a sheriff there.
right, and we knew that going in. But it's still, we know we still have an officer of the court and her background to still be a deterrent and still help with our security.
It does, and I can appreciate that, but please understand that our county manager is our right hand, right? The daily operations, he has no say over this security person. That would all fall on Denise.
Can we clarify something real quick? Because I think that the point here is being missed, that is what the concern is that Nolina does not have administrator access to our camera system anymore. And is why I took that away is we had 3 administrators on our camera system, and all it says is administrator. And that camera system can be accessed and seen in various ways, shapes, and so is what she has right now is visual. She can get on there, she has access to the camera, she can get on and see what's happening in the courthouse. That's fine. But, and as well as the key cards, I believe the key cards were they another one that was brought
I've
up?
never had key cards.
No, you've never had key card access, but I thought that
They're
was
separate.
something that Denise.
No.
I don't wanna, but I wanna make sure that we're clear on what.
And I will clear that up when Bert's done.
Okay, thank you. But is what has caused this is the access to the camera systems. It's not, there's, the rest of this job description is, I think everybody agrees on, and we appreciate having the extra security and knowing, nothing against what she does or doesn't do. But it's all about access to camera systems within our courthouse.
So stop, camera systems, what's the difference between camera systems and then being able to view, because I don't know.
So having full admin, you can actually add somebody, like I could put, per se, I can add you to the camera system, so now you can view everything. And you can go back in time, record, any date, any time, go back and say, oh, this is what was happening that day, and record it, or add another user to the system. And that was the concern when we had an issue come up and a complaint come to my office about comments that were made over somebody that must have had access to the camera system. And I went in, I'm like, holy smokes, we got all these admins, we don't even know who these people are.
Well,
and I'm still in search of, from the system to see who these people were, how they were added, where they
That's my
came
concern.
from.
How come we had 3 administrators on that camera system? When we put that camera system, we entrusted it to our county manager.
Yeah, so with that, I went in and I just closed everybody. And then Nolina came, she's like, hey, what is going on? Why'd you shut me out? I said, well, I have some concerns. Did you add these people on the camera system? She said, no, I didn't add anybody, but I could see that when I got on there that you were on there at the same time, and so then I was blocked. What's going on here? So then I said, well, here's what we're gonna do. I went and met with Denise, said, we're gonna give you back access to the cameras where you can view. But we aren't gonna give you admin. You aren't gonna be able to add people. You aren't gonna be able to go back in time and start, checking. And if we have a complaint, then let's go in together. We can pull the footage together. We can make a copy of it. It can be documented through HR. So there's a proper chain of custody that moves forward. And then we can move on with that. As a security of the courthouse, she said, yep, I will get with Denise. We will make sure that this chain is followed. I'll be with you. So there'll be a couple of us on there anytime we have to go back and have access. And that's what brings us here today, is that we're trying to see if Nolina should have admin access or just the access that I gave.
So I think the job description stays the same, we just need to clarify the other
I'll
points
clarify
that go
something,
with
'cause
it.
Bert, you misspoke. I'm actually labeled as a power user. I can go back and check and do all that stuff. The main difference between what I currently have is basically, and from what I know, is just adding users and not seeing. I see what I can see, but I can still go back and do the other things. It's
Can
just
you
not
alter
the add.
footage, or can you just go back in timeline to see events that took place, or can you erase?
Yes, I can do all of that.
There shouldn't be that many.
So then I do apologize, and I did misspeak, because then I've given Nolina more access. I thought I only gave you back viewing. I
No, I'm a
apologize.
power user, so the only difference is it just takes away adding users and.
Which she
Yeah.
does not want to do that.
'Cause
That's
that's-
not her intention.
And honestly, to Bert's credit, he was going to give me admin, and I told him with all the stuff going on, I don't want the
didn't
user
need it.
part.
Well, I think it's what, if something ever did funny go on, you have one administrator, that one administrator can be held accountable. When you have three,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's like,
Are we allowed to know, like, I don't know if it's allowed, Sadie Solomon for the record, if we have 3 administrators and then so many for viewing, I know in past meetings, and it's been talked tons, is the sheriff's office on board finally to be able to have view footage?
No, they are
That'd be a
not.
question, and then just also who's able to view,
What-
because you keep talking of 3,
Yes.
so I just wanted to make it
Who are
clear.
the three?
Well, that's what I'm trying to
We
find
don't
out
know.
still. I have everybody blocked,
I
but
found out.
okay.
Okay.
And I asked Robert about this, and Robert's like, Bert, he's labeled on there, but he's never actually had access.
Yeah,
The
I-
sheriff's
But he
office
is on their
can't see
sheriff's
our
office.
cameras.
so you know who the admins were?
I do now.
Oh.
I mean, because before it was Bert, me, and Anna, and then IT got added, and then there was an admin that we couldn't get rid of when I sat down there with Bert, and come to find out that's actually the admin for the system, so you can't ever delete that one, or you can't access the system
So
at all.
my question, who added the admins when we give you control of our camera system?
I don't know. The oversight is on me, because when I got in there, the camera systems aren't something I look at.
Right.
They're just we haven't had an issue since I've been in that we needed to pull cameras.
Right.
Until I got a phone call with somebody saying, hey, this is what just happened. Somebody's obviously viewing me on the cameras by the comment that was just made to me, and I have some major concerns. I hadn't even opened the cameras up. I had to call Liz to see how to get access.
Gotcha.
Or is it safe to say that this was set up prior to you? So I know
Oh, yes, no, it was definitely set up.
I want it clear for Bert that this was set up before Bert, so like he's stating is that, he, whoever admin was, it didn't have to do with him, it was.
So like it went to the old
It was-
camera system under our last
It
county
was
manager?
when it originally, I believe,
Yes.
was set up.
It
and
was
so
initially under
then
Keith.
it's the new, yes, so
Yeah.
then the new people coming on to learn the new system, just so that you know.
And so I have something to say that should make this pretty easy, is under the, last administration that, and Bert and I have had this conversation, and he can validate that I said that we had, in my own computer, had a email that was there, and someone else's, and then it was gone, and then when I started screaming and yelling, it was back. So there needs to be one person who has access to that, so then if crazy stuff goes on, and that wasn't under him, that was under the former admin, that he's the only, there's one person that had the ability to do that. Or in the case that he has a heart attack, and it has to be somebody else, a second, but beyond that, that truly is, that, not all people need to have that access.
Way back when I was on the school board, I addressed the camera issues. We had, a lot of buses getting trashed. And I mentioned that the cameras around this school district should be interfaced with the sheriff's office. The cameras here should be interfaced with the sheriff's office. I've been promoting this for
Since before this courthouse was still being built.
Yes. And
That
so
was
how-
the purpose of the
How hard
cameras.
is that to do, Robert? I mean, what is that?
Can
you
you,
have to get
can
the
you
school
view
district
cameras
to agree.
concurrently right now, Robert, or not?
No.
No, he can't even look at them.
Robert Quick for the Sheriff's Office. We have no access to the cameras in this building at all.
Okay.
How hard is that to change?
It's programming. That's
It's what, Rob?
programming on the
Yeah.
on the courthouse side. The firewalls and routers need to be set up and programmed. Also licensing that was purchased with the replacement of the camera system was purchased with the intent to allow for the district court and justice court bailiff to have a wireless device for viewing, as well as the dispatch center, and that's not been set up either.
Another thing about the cameras that I was concerned about years ago was resolution. At the school district, they had cameras on the outside, and they could identify a human being walking back to the buses and vandalize them. But they couldn't hone in and get their
And
face.
see who.
I mean,
And you
it
can't
has
do
to
that
at
on
least
ours
be
either.
that good.
So anyway, that's what
Okay.
started the whole thing, was about the
You
cameras.
have- if you
Since
just
then,
screen the shot, you just make
since
the
then,
actual image
my
bigger.
bailiff has asked, am I in charge of the security of this building? Is it my responsibility to watch out for everybody else in this building? And as that also came to me with other questions, and I'm gonna let her talk because she's the reason we're here. She needs answers. Was the keys. We have had people in our back secure stairwell, we don't even know who they are. We've had people in the courts secure hallway, we don't even know who they
How
are.
they get back there?
There's the question. Nolina does not want the keys. Nolina does, let me finish please, Art. Nolina does not want to be in charge of the keys, giving keys, taking keys away. Nolina feels as security, if just for the justice court, she needs to know who has access to what for the court. That's something she asked me and I couldn't answer.
Well, I agree, Denise. We need to know how those people got in there, go back through the videos, and you can find out.
Well, they used a key, apparently, Art.
Well, Denise, that's why we're
Okay.
here.
So,
Commissioners,
guys, okay.
a legal element in this is that the job description has to be approved and adopted by you.
So do we need to
That
put
is
that
our
on the
policy.
agenda?
We have approved and adopted all job descriptions, including, it is my understanding that when Judge Bunch was the judge, many years ago, that the positions in the court were also approved. The job descriptions were approved by this board.
Okay,
That's
that was
my,
my next question.
and that was
That's
years.
my understanding.
Okay.
And
I don't think so, but I don't know.
Is there any way that could be researched?
Yes,
in
we
time?
can,
Well, can
yes.
we do that? please,
Because
so
we can pull those job descriptions and
Thank
they
you.
should be
That'll
signed
make
by the
it- get it
commissioner and dated the day they were approved.
And when Judge Bunch was here, he was not part of our HR system.
Exactly.
But I do believe that regardless, he did have them approved. I could be wrong, Denise.
So do we
But
need to bring this
we can
job
verify
description
that, but
back?
on this one, you need to, I'm asking you legally that you approve it or disapprove it, whatever you wanna do. And if you like what it says in here, and the pertinent part is number 4 and 5, attend and maintain the security during the Lander County Commissioner meeting, that's 4. 5, maintain security throughout the entire administrative building when not in court. So those are the things you need to zero in on. And the judge did say, if she's in charge of security, I don't know if this would put her in charge of security.
No, I'm not in charge of security.
No, well, yeah, it would, so, but you say that.
Oh, you mean the bailiff?
The bailiff.
Okay, I'm sorry, I heard judge, I'm like, no.
I think she's going to, I think their motivation is to provide security services, but not be in charge of the.
Exactly.
So now does
security.
that need, that was my question, so
So I
does
just
this need
wanna
to be
point
brought
that-
back,
Exactly.
being more specific?
Well, you can modify it right now, you can ask for the modification
Oh, okay.
and approve it as
We're concerned
modified.
about the physical safety, not the digital safety.
Well,
But that's part of it together.
this is the job description, you can modify, that's why the agenda says.
But
So, hold on,
like
guys, so-
any policeman she's entitled to the tools she needs to do her job.
It says that,
And that's where
Okay,
my
I'm
concern
gonna
comes.
go back to my original.
That's where I'd
Hang
ask,
on
sorry,
one sec.
Patsy.
Brian has something to say, so.
it says to either modify, delete, or agree to do it.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the original and, make a motion that we approve the job description, before us. And that and include, the cameras, cause it's very advantageous for our security to be watched. I think that's all in our good behalf. Now, do you wanna curtail, I mean, I'm not adding anything else to it, but the security cameras that she has the availability to see everything that's going on.
Just viewing access.
Just
is what
viewing
you're
Yeah,
referencing.
view and access, yes.
And I wanna make sure that every
have
commissioner
power.
understands,
What's the
we're approving this job description
You can't play
of
back
the
and you can't
security
do
in this
those things,
courthouse, that
which
our
I think
county
is the problem.
manager will not have say of this employee. It's
right.
it's not his employee. Everybody needs to understand that. And
Yes.
that's what I have concern with.
Yes.
She is a court employee.
Right, and it's advantageous for us to have her here to be
No, it is, but
monitored.
I'm just
So
saying
the-
there's
So
that
the
side of the
motion would
coin.
just included the job description with the full viewing and access, that's it.
And the reason I say that, I think being able to rewind, is in case I do see something, I need to play it back to
She
see.
needs to go back to see.
Under view
What Bert
only,
has
I can't do
previously
that.
given her is fine. What she has right now is fine. She's fine
The
with
ability
that.
to erase and
No,
that-
she can't do that.
She said she could do
I can
that.
play it back,
She can play it
Oh,
back.
got you.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
So she
doesn't.
can't erase footage.
She doesn't want.
None of the
she
footage gets
doesn't
erased
want
on our
that.
cameras.
She can't make any modifications
And
at all.
you guys don't even have a time that it stops. You guys we replaced those hard drives, so everything that's ever happened in this courthouse, you guys have copies of. It has not stopped. It was designed to, when the old material got full, it would overwrite the older stuff. We haven't even filled, you guys, I don't know, you guys have lots of footage that you.
So, I have a question for Bert. Do you have, as far as the way it's running now, or the way this is written, is there something you want changed or different that you don't have authority over her that needs to be changed, or are you fine with it?
No, I'm fine with it. I
too.
just think that we just don't need to give the access to add or take
Oh,
away.
no,
the
no,
others.
no.
Right.
And so where we stand right now, I think is acceptable. I don't think that it's,
Okay.
So Bert, are we currently, then there's one admin on that camera system now?
well, there's currently two, myself and then the actual owner admin that comes from the actual,
Manufacturer of the system?
manufacturer of the system.
Okay.
So yes, every other admin on there right now is blocked.
And that person knows that you are the,
Correct.
okay.
And it probably should be noted too, you only have 5 licenses for that, so you can only have 5 people on that system.
That have viewing rights?
That he can assign viewing rights or anything,
Oh.
it's a maximum of 5.
Well, I wouldn't think, would we really need more than your, your county manager, your security, your sheriff's department? Who else would you really need?
And I guess in the event of an accident or something, maybe HR would need access
HR,
at that
yeah.
time. You could give and take, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they have to be on there permanently. They can be on there for an period of time and then removed. So that's all. I think that's all this is for.
Okay.
Can I make a comment? I'm sorry, but they're taking up my chair.
Oh.
Just as, before you guys pass any job description, I just wanted some clarification also on the key cards. Not that she has access to Jenny Martin for the record, and I do work for the Justice Court as well. And I have a background where I worked for a decade in a court where a judge did get shot. And it's awful. It doesn't matter until it actually happens, unfortunately. But I think Melina should have access to see who can key in and out of that back hallway that enters directly into the Justice Court and the District Court, because if something happens, that's.
I have that access, and so does Anna, and if she has questions, she can always come in,
Melina
I can
can
show
just go
her,
and
yep.
ask how they
Yes.
were
I,
issued.
I think now that this has come to light, I think
That-
sitting
that
down
would
and
be
having a
taking this
conversation
to
and
a whole
figuring
new
things
level.
out we
Yeah,
can do probably
well, I
together.
think that for right now, I think that we're good with just the way.
You okay with the motion?
But I definitely think I need to know who's coming and going,
She
and,
just
I mean,
needs
just
to know.
And
because
so I think
there's
we're getting
people
off
that.
topic of the agenda item. We
Yes.
can make that a future agenda item, but just for sake of comment, I want the commission to know that I'm in the process of myself and Liz being the only two, as HR, being the only two to issue cards and access to that system to see what is coming and going, because that is important. And I think that the process we're trying to get set up, not to get too far off topic, but is where if somebody wanted access to the courtroom, we would call Denise and say, hey, do you approve these guys to have access? Or, hey, we have IT coming in and they need to access something in here. do you mind? And then we issue that card because we can shut access on and off. But I don't think it'll go through the building department anymore. I don't believe that's where it belongs. So we're trying to clean these things up as we come to them. But the cameras and the key cards were not anything that I just figured they were working until.
You may want to bring that back for another agenda
Yeah.
item if you have any other concerns, but I'm okay with all of
So
it.
is everybody okay with the way the motion?
Yes, because I,
Yes.
Can you state your motion again for me, Patsy, so I'm clear on it?
Yeah, the motion was that we accept the job description as is, and that we allow the bailiff to have all of the camera access to watch everything and rewind for all of the security
I
cameras.
think we have enough language during this issue to understand the intent.
So a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. So Patsy made the motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, very good.
Thanks,
We're
guys.
gonna take a break, you guys, about a
Thank
10-minute
you.
break, please. Liz, tell me when you're ready.
This conference will now be recorded.
Get a tardy note, Patsy.
You're all right.
I wouldn't table it yet because they're not in here, so they wouldn't know if you tabled it.
Okay, so, all right, so we're going on for discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove, or amend a one-year contract between Lander County and Oasis Online to provide IT services in the amount not to exceed $129,000. So then I just have a question, okay? Are you ready for me to have a question?
Yes, I apologize.
You're all right.
I was doing my own thing as you read that out.
And this is truly me not understanding, so it's not like I'm digging for something, it's just I don't understand this part. So then when, Richard was helping do IT stuff, and,
So this is, and I'm glad, so can I
yeah.
just kind of take
Go
off of
ahead,
this?
before I
Might
get started.
save the question. So what we have is if we hired this IT position as we went out to hire for, with the benefits and with the package to hire an IT position, it's $134,000 is what that package is total of. Is what we see as a wage was I think between 60 and 80 is what the wage was, but when you include the PERS and you include the retirement and all the whole benefit package, you're at $134,000. So when Oasis came in at $129,000, they're saving us $5,000. It's not a huge savings, but it's still within the budget of what we're budgeting for the IT if we were to hire a full-time Lander County IT.
Okay.
Does,
Yes, and so that because of what all of his duties are for, Sadie, it's impossible to do both those jobs. is what-
yes, we were coming up against it one way or the other. We were gonna have to bring somebody in part-time, whether we hired anyone who put in for that position that Richard put in for. So I know when people see this, and if I was Richard and I seen this and said, man, I only wanted to hire it for, $80,000 and these guys wouldn't do it, or $90,000 and they wouldn't do it, but yet they're hiring Oasis for $129,000, I'd be offended. But when you look at it as a whole package deal for the benefits and the wages and everything else, it's actually cheaper for the county to go out and still hire Oasis and have somebody here who they're gonna bring here. They're interviewing people right now to try to bring on full-time, kind of pending on this agenda item.
Now, I know they're currently the ones that supply support to the school district, and from what I understand, they do a really good job too, so.
When I was on the school board, we hired Oasis, and that was a long time, well, it seems like a long time ago. And they're still there, so.
So my question is then, they are going to bring their employee here full-time for us, or just come when we call them?
No, they will have somebody full-time here for us in Lander County. They're hiring somebody to be here in Lander County. When we call them for a higher level of support than who they have here, they will bring in one of their higher techs from, say, Fallon or somewhere else to come in and help.
And if I remember correctly, they'll even fly in.
Yeah,
I think they fly in from Fallon.
But we're gonna have them 40 hours a week, that's the whole
Yes.
key.
Doug, yeah, come on up.
Doug Staten, for the record, and I'm going to address this particular issue as a member of the Lander County School Board of Trustees. We do have Oasis as our IT support company. They have, in the time that I've dealt with them both as associate teacher in the district and being on the board, we've gotten nothing but 100% quality service from Oasis. They report to us at every meeting about help tickets. They send out phishing emails to root out people, to instruct employees on not clicking on a phishing email. They offer training about different issues with cybersecurity. I would recommend Oasis without reservation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
So yeah, so we were gonna have to hire a part-time regardless if Richard had taken it, because there wouldn't be enough time, because his time's restrained. All right, so I'm gonna just make sure, because I was gonna say that to make.
This is cheaper than a full-time.
Yeah, that's, he had already addressed that. You were taking to the train, you already addressed that, but thank you, okay. Is there any other questions? Okay.
Just for clarification, so when Richard does need to go into the server room for myself and Leslie's servers, does he need to ask you and Liz still for access, or will Oasis be residing in it, or just to have it clear for chain of command, who does he touch base with?
He'll still have to come through me or Liz to gain
Okay,
access.
so he just comes and asks you, he doesn't. Now, what if both of you are not available in a meeting, gone, whatever have you, are you gonna allow Oasis to let him in there? You know, like say,
Oh, of course, I think we want, the intent of this is for them to work cohesively together.
right.
So once they get somebody on full-time, I think the plan would be that them and Richard would be working together, and it shouldn't be an issue for him to have access anytime he wanted to knock on the door.
So if for some reason they, they'll have that. That wasn't.
Yeah, no worries.
Make sure that go ahead, Leslie.
But that was my clarification as to whether or not he came to you and Liz, or
Yeah.
if Oasis will be allowed to let him in if you guys are not available.
Yeah, and Richard had said he was willing to work with whoever we bring on, and vice versa. So hopefully that works out better, it becomes a redundancy for the whole county.
Great. Okay, that was my question.
Leslie Bunch for the record, Lander County Recorder. I have an issue with going through them to get to my server because I've had to wait days to get in there when I needed to get access to something, no fault of anyone's. They're not here on Friday, I normally am. And that was through the time period that I needed to get in there. And my question is, why do I have to go through them to get to my server? If I have issues with DMV, and I need, like for this example, I use a lot of hard drives that I get for historical purposes. We're trying to update everything and make it look nice, and so everybody can research everything. It requires that I plug in to my server, and I have Richard that does it for me, which is great because I'm not a whiz. But I don't like the fact that I can't access my stuff unless I get permission to go in there and get it. I just don't see I don't know why that has to be that way.
Commissioners?
Why can't I access my own server?
Commissioners, I talked to Leslie about this, and I tend to agree with her. She not only has her own server, she's an elected official, and she has her own IT. So I suggested that she put her server in her office.
Do you have a
And that would take care of the problem. And Sadie can do the same thing. She has her own IT, she's her own elected official, and she can put it in her office.
So are the servers all in one general location now?
So that's something I'd like to say too. We spent so much money, and to have that area, it's IT. You have to have it on a cooling unit. It has to be regulated, not too hot, not too cold, just like our server here for the commission meeting, because they didn't wire for our server for the commission meeting to be in that area. And so anyway, we have one in here. And it's in Bert's office. We get with Bert, get in there. There's a unit that's in there. You have to have the heating and cooling. We spent so much money, that server, you go in there and.
And we have backup servers that Laura
Correct.
had purchased for us too. In case we had a problem, we could just slip the other one back in there.
Is that something
And,
that
well,
you
and
guys
that's
want,
all,
is access
that's
to-
what I was just gonna say.
So-
When we moved into this building, the elected officials had access to the server room. Oasis was here yesterday trying to give the court new computers. on the direction of the Supreme Court. They could not get into the server room. They left. I now have to wait another week because I don't have access anymore.
So, I mean, that's something that's
I think
okay.
the elected officials should be given access to the server.
Just so you
to
know
the
also,
IT.
in those rooms, it's concrete, it's cinder blocked. So if there's something that, you know, a fire was to arise, it was specialized. So that way, our backups,
Yeah,
our
we don't wanna
servers,
take our
there was
stuff
no
out of
damage.
there.
So, yeah, we would love to take it out of there if we don't have the access, because we need to still be able to function as elected officials, department heads, whatever have you. But it was also designed specific for all of our computers, servers, everything, you know, with that for fireproof. So, you know, there's two things in my opinion. Yes, move them out into our office, that's great, you know, we have the access. But if there was a fire, and of course we do have another backup, you know, we don't have them in a safe, fireproof.
secure
Correct,
place.
yeah,
Right.
so.
I have a vault in my office.
Leslie
that I
does.
could- that-
Lucky
But I
dog.
would have to drill through the cinder block
Right.
to bring, because they didn't,
For
the
the,
plan
Foresee
didn't
this.
foresee
for the,
this
for the
kind
sake
of
of time, you know, I get what they're saying. Maybe is what we need to look into is, putting locks on these servers to where,
That's what I was gonna say.
they stay in the same room. Everybody only has access to their own server
Yeah.
because it's a matter of security for everybody.
Yeah.
And so why don't we look into that and we bring this back and,
Yeah,
and
can we do
Is
that?
that a good idea, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause I'm for-
'cause it's-
okay,
yeah.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You can go ahead and tell their hearing now.
Okay, so we'll just do this motion on this for this.
Oh,
Oh, what do we, what? Are we into, cause now I lost my place.
well, are we ready for a motion?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion that we approve, a one-year contract between Lander County and Oasis Online to provide IT services in the amount not to exceed $129,000.
so Brian made the motion, Art second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alright, so we're gonna table number 7, so anybody who's sitting in the audience waiting for that one, we're gonna have to table and reschedule.
Okay, I actually would like to comment on number 7, I need something ready to be read in the record.
She can do that public comment,
Okay, so
but,
let's,
for non-agendized items.
okay, so
now
let's
that
do
it's
it at
tabled.
pub,
What's agendized?
But it's not now.
cause we're gonna table it, cause,
Do they need a motion to, go ahead and table it?
No, the chairman can do that.
but yeah, I'm tabling it, but I want you to read your.
You'll have an opportunity to make.
Well, I just want you to know I'm supposed to be at training 2 days today and also tomorrow with the Secretary of State, and so
The
I
chairman can
stayed,
give
my
you-
staff stayed here for this item.
The chairman can open that up for public comment for you right now.
Okay?
Alright, yeah, so come on out.
Are you opening public comment?
I'm gonna open up public comment.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay. Sadie Sullivan, Lander County Clerk. Okay, so my public comment for this item, let me get in here so I can read this. Okay, I had in here, good morning to you all, so it's still morning, oh, long morning. I would like to state that the item number 7, was not put on by me, Sadie Sullivan as Lander County Clerk. And the reason why I want that to go on the record is because I've had my phone blowing up since people had seen the agenda. They said, is this you, whatever have you. So I just want that on the record, that this was not myself putting this on the agenda. I was out Monday. So Monday morning, my staff notified me that this item was on the agenda. And once we received the email packet, we seen that there was no backup. Myself and 2 staffs were supposed to be on our annual training in Reno with the Secretary of State directly. It's an annual training, so it's for all clerks and register of voters. On Tuesday, I talked with the DA, Ted and Bert. I stated that I wouldn't be available. I didn't have staffing that would be able to also talk on this item. I asked if we could go ahead and table the item because Barbara Sagaski, Secretary of State, had sent a request to put on the agenda to go over all the things that were going to be affected in the next upcoming election that was passed by legislature. The request was sent to Bert and myself, and it states, it says, request for an agenda item to discuss voter outreach. And so I was hoping that we could have this item, that was my initial thoughts, was have this item and then also the other item together on the same one so we could have discussion on both. Let's see here. I stated that, sorry, I'm going to repeat right there. I stated to them that that would be great time to have both items and have the discussion. I was told that they didn't care about our letter. They didn't need the Secretary of State's office, myself, or my staff, that they would be moving forward on item number 7. On this, I just felt that we need to be educated. We need to have the backup information. If Lander County was going to go to an all-paper election, and I'm familiar with the statute or law that Bert and Ted's talked about, and Bert had mentioned it earlier, that they would like it to also not just be paper ballot voting. We would be hand counting it. It wouldn't be going through any mechanical device, tallying, whatever have you. So also, one of the things that I want to have the public and the board and everybody know, there are other laws other than that one. There's federal laws, and we have to follow those federal laws. One of them would not be followed immediately, from my understanding, the American with the Disabled Act, ADA. So let me read this short paragraph and tell you exactly what Americans with Disabled Act state. So this is a federal law that we have to abide by for elections. This statement right here, it just says, the Americans with Disabled Act, ADA, became law in 1990, and the ADA is a civil right law that prohibits, discriminates against individuals with disabilities in all areas of public life, including jobs, school, transportation, and all public and private places that are open to the general public. This is me now. As I state, they have to provide an electronic device for them to be able to vote, period. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. We have to follow those federal laws. So there's several laws. We need to follow those.
So can I clarify, clarification on that? What would be the difference of electronic versus a written? Because you're still having to push buttons. I don't understand how that would be.
Well, in this statement, it might help you a little bit,
Okay,
and then
okay.
there's things to print off. And it's there's so much information
Okay.
on it, Brian, to be honest with you. We could have a whole meeting on it. So it says, so we have to provide the electronic devices for impede. All the information is on the U.S. Department of Justice. Here's some of your answer to that. And if you'd like to look it up, it's ada.gov. It's several pages long. You can reference the checklist that they have to put out. It's called Americans with Disabled Act, ADA checklist for polling places. I feel that this item needs to be looked over from A to Z. This is not an item to be voted on today, in my opinion. I didn't feel it should be voted because there's no backup. There's not all the information there for all of us. So I was hoping, that you wouldn't vote on it as the board. We need to educate everyone on what needs to be followed legally. All of us. There's so much, and there is it's NRS 293 is specifically elections, and it is not 5, 10, it's several pages. I should have brought the book with me. Sorry, I did not. So once educated, then there's a process that it can, I feel, and we'd have to check all legally. You could put this on the ballot and let the voters vote to see if they want to do all paper. And there's processes for that, because there's different generations, different opinions. People want to come vote on the machines. It was such a huge controversy when the primary came about. People are ticked. They wanted to be able to vote last primary in person. They didn't want to do the paper ballot. This is all my poll workers, myself, and throughout. There's benefits both ways.
Let me, just to clarify again, so it goes back to my original question on the disability, the ADA, but if we put it on the ballot and the voters said, we want paper ballot, then now you're not in conflict of the disability, the ADA, of what you just stated.
They have to put it in writing. So if you have any person, whether it's disability, whatever have you, and they request for it to be paper, then of course you follow those laws.
Well, then
But
how did this wind up an amendment in the state constitution if it's illegal federally?
A whole provision.
Because you have a bipartisan amendment, where in the last legislation, for paper ballots, bipartisan.
Right, and there is an AB bill, so for the next election, everybody will get a paper ballot again, past that legislation law. So with the letter that Barbara Sagaski, our Secretary of State, had submitted, that's why she wanted to be able to be on the agenda. She's reaching out to everybody, all the commissioners, the boards, whatever have you. And so that way all those questions and her staffing could go over that specifically. Bert and I have that. Did you get that in your email by chance, Bert? On the Secretary of State's, oh, excuse me, here it is right here. Okay, so it's August 19th. It says, request for an agenda item to discuss voter outreach. Dear County Commissioners, due to the recent passage of numerous election-related bills and recognizing the importance of an informed electorate, I humbly request an agenda item during your next Board of County Commissioner meeting in order to discuss a formal voter outreach campaign. The intent of the campaign is to provide clear, factual, and nonpartisan information about the following subjects. Impacts and changes, there's 3 little bullet points there. First one is impacts and changes to voters and elections processes due to Assembly Bill AB 321, Assembly Bill 121, and I can get you guys a copy of this letter as well.
Sadie, I'm sorry, is this letter to you?
It's to Bert and I, to the Board of Commissioners. It's an
Okay,
agenda
so
request.
Bert has a copy requesting it be on the agenda.
Yes.
We already have it on the.
Okay, then it's all set.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So what my point is some of those questions can be answered through this plus this as well.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the part I wanted you to know. This letter has gone out. It says a similar letter has been provided to all statewide elected officials, senators, assemblymen, women, the Board of Regents, and each county school board, and numerous other veteran organizations and advocate groups. So the elections we have oversee, we have our disabilities, there's so much to it. It's just not something that you cannot look at and follow those federal guidelines. Let me get back to this.
No, you keep on calling them federal guidelines, so they're not federal laws.
Okay,
So because
Can I just
for the
finish?
sake
I'm
of
almost
time,
done.
for the sake of time, and this
I'm
is,
almost
so,
done.
no, I know, but, this is we're already asking to table it, and,
Right.
and it will be coming back at the respect of
Right.
you, and I just wanna be clear to the commission that when Sadie me and Ted went up and met with Sadie, and sitting in Sadie's presence, I sent this email,
okay,
and
can I
and said.
finish? I have just one
No,
paragraph.
for sure. I'm getting there, but I want to make sure that you guys don't, because the perception that I'm getting, and I hope that it's just a misunderstanding, is that we went in there, we don't care what anybody says, and that we were trying to bully, and I want to make sure that we clear that up, not only for Sadie and myself and Ted, but for the public as well. So I want to make sure that this, out of her respect, we planned on tabling this, and as we discussed, just currently we're waiting for some opinions to come down as well. We went into Sadie and said, hey, here's the NRS, it's 293B115, that we found, that these are supposed to be in the possession of Lander County.
Wait, guess what? That's the machines. This is the
He's making
The
a public
separate.
opinion.
Yes,
well,
yes.
why
so-
didn't I get to finish my
No,
public opinion?
no doubt, no
Okay,
doubt.
we're not doing this, so what?
I'm not trying to be
Take a breath.
controversial
All right,
here,
finish
but,
what you-
But
then
this
I want-
is that's a different topic, right?
okay,
Hang
one
on,
second.
Sadie, I want you to finish, but let's get this finished.
Yes, and then we'll finish your paragraph, and then hopefully we can move on and put this on a future agenda, because it is a big deal for
Right.
our whole
It's for
community.
all of us,
And I don't want there to be, distant between my office and your office, or Ted's and yours, or anybody else's,
Right.
because everybody should be coming to the same table on this one, it's pretty simple. But we had just discovered the 293.115B. So as requested in our conversation with Ted, DA, you, and myself today, per NRS 293B1115, we are formally requesting the transfer of all voting machines immediately into my custody, as I am under the direction of Lander County Commission. Sadie then went back and came back the next morning and said, hey, this is what we do have, it's this other NRS that could be in conflict here, let's stop and let's look at this. So that leads us to where we are today. So, and we said, absolutely, if there is another NRS and there is something that disputes this, we need to continue up this chain until we find the proper custody. So I don't want anybody to have especially in the public, and especially Sadie and Ted and myself, I don't want there to be this outside perception of us marching in and we're gonna take
We
this
did
from.
not try to seize any.
No, so I just, yes, I just, because sitting here, it's coming across as that.
Hey, no, we're not doing this, so go ahead, Bert, finish, please. We're not
Just
doing
sitting here, it is slightly coming across as that, and if it did come across that way, Sadie, I apologize, but
And you didn't
I
make
was.
this statement, Bert.
So
What's
So
that?
you were not the one that made the statement that they didn't care about Barbara Sagaski, Secretary of State.
No, but
So
I.
just to make the record clear, that was not Bert that stated that we didn't care about her letter.
No, but I just wanna make sure that this commission is aware of the way that we're headed here. We are respecting, cause you told us you wouldn't be present today, so I was surprised to see you, but we had every intention of respecting your wishes and tabling it, and moving it forward.
So,
And,
what I have received, I mean, I didn't receive any.
and then we've received a ton of emails since then.
Right.
I didn't know that you wanted any follow-up to say, hey, 100% Sadie, this thing will be tabled, cause I'd have said, sent you an email so you had documentation of it, but you already told me you wouldn't be here. So I just wanna make that clear for the whole commission. This is gonna be a much bigger thing in the coming future, because there are a whole new set of laws in place that have to be panned through with the attorneys, and what Art speaks to is a bipartisan vote. This is much bigger than a public comment, is what I'm saying. So maybe for the sake of time and the community that's here that have other items on this agenda, we can jump forward and get to the next thing right after this, because
Okay, yes.
it's dragging on.
Yes, because we have people who've been sitting here in the crowd.
I'll
waiting.
just finish
So
this real
up,
quick.
please. Thank you.
It says in closing, I've worked off and on in the county for 26 years. I was voted in as Lander County Clerk to follow all state and federal laws. I'm speaking up today for the voters in Lander County. Let it be Lander County, a ballot question, if that's what legally, can be followed through on. That's it. This is all legal stuff. On the general election in 2022. And let the voters also have a say on it instead of just a small group or a board. Let's hear from our people and our citizens, and be able to hear what they would like as a whole, not just myself, not just the board. I feel that it's something that really needs to be looked at, and taken seriously and not lightly. So,
All right.
thank you
very
much.
much.
Thanks, Sadie.
Thank you. So, we're gonna jump forward because we have people who've been sitting here on the, we're gonna skip over, so because they've been sitting here waiting to try to do this presentation really fast, you guys. I wanna get Marigold mine because it's important and they've been sitting here, I hate to, I know, you wanna go lunch? It is fine, we'll go.
Is it lunchtime?
Are you, huh?
They can present, yeah.
Is it, cause, I want, cause they've been sitting here for hours, and I know it's late, but they've been sitting here in for this item. So I would like, you guys, we're gonna jump over number 4, and would you guys come forward, please? I'm sorry, the board.
Thank you for being patient, guys.
Yes, thank you very much.
So what agenda are you on?
We're doing number 5, all right? I'm very sorry to everyone. So, the update, the presentation by Marigold Mine Operations on dewatering. So,
For the record, Don Dwyer, I'm the new general manager at Marigold Mine.
all right, thank you guys for coming.
Tamara Baker, environmental specialist at Marigold Mine.
All right.
So I just want to say thank you for allowing us to take the time to give you a little update on our operation, as well as some of the dewatering that we are starting at our property. So just to give you a little, are you guys seeing the presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So just a little overview on SSR Mining. So SSR Mining has a pretty strong portfolio. We have operations in open pit mine in the country of Turkey. We have an underground mine in Saskatchewan in Canada. We have the open pit mine here in Nevada that operates in Humboldt County, as well as we have a silver mine that operates in Argentina. If you go to the next one. So just, overall, Marigold sits kind of in the heart of the Battle Mountain trend, and so we have a pretty good place as far as like gold mining goes within our district to be successful. You can see on the map there on the right, we're surrounded by lots of other gold mines, so overall we're in a good district. Just a short little history, so Marigold was originally the Ray Rock mine back in 1988. It went into production in 1989. Through the 90s and 2000s, it exchanged hands between different owners, and then in 2014, Silver Standard Resources 100% wholly bought out the Marigold mine. And then in 2017, SSR Mining was rebranded from the Silver Standard Resources, just because most of the assets that SSR Mining had were gold related, so they wanted to make sure that was the focus of their name and not silver. In 2019, late 2019, we merged with Alicer Gold. So Alicer had the operation in Turkey, which now falls under the SSR Mining portfolio. In 2020, we looked to have record production, as well as we had record production in 2019, 2020, and looking forward in 2021. So our workforce, so we've been in continuous operation since 1988. As you can see by the graph, as the gold price has changed, our workforce has still grown. So even though we've seen, some little changes within the gold price, we've still expanded as an operation. In 2020, we had 442 full-time employees. We currently sit at 445, looking to grow to a little over 460 full-time employees. Overall, steady growth and pretty stable. Been here for 30 years and looking to be here for 30 more. In our mine operations, we have a little over 220 employees in the mine operations group, a little over 116 in our maintenance group. All of our workers work a 5-4 rotation, 12-hour shifts. The major mining equipment that we have 25 haul trucks that haul 320 tons each, so they're fairly large size haul trucks. We operate one P&H electric shovel. It's a rather big shovel. It can actually load those 320 ton haul trucks with just 3 scoops, so that's pretty massive. And then we have 2 hydraulic P&H PC7000 shovels. They're Komatsu brand, and then we have one Hitachi hydraulic shovel that we run also. So a little bit smaller units allow us more flexibilities. And then we have a combination of drills that we use to be able to drill the holes to blast the material that we mine. Technology-wise, we have a dispatch system that we utilize, which allows us to kind of see where the equipment is around the mine site, be able to give out different job assignments and communicate with the operators. And then we have a simulator system that we use for training new operators so they can actually drive a haul truck or operate a shovel in a pretend environment in order to get that training and understand how to maneuver that big piece of equipment before actually going out into the field. With that, I'm going to pass over to Tamara to kind of talk about our dewatering. So just wanted to give you a little update on what our operation is, and Tamara will run you through our dewatering, what we're currently doing.
Thanks, Don. Okay, so I want to give you just a little bit of history because the environmental assessment that gave us the authorization to do dewatering was approved in 2019, but it began in 2015. So it was a long process. You all probably weren't directly involved. We did reach out with the BLM for public scoping meetings, and then the draft EIS was reviewed, and also Lander County was invited as a cooperating agency. I know y'all probably weren't here then, so I'll give you just a quick little rundown, and then our Pateau associate is going to get into the details of the dewatering program. On this map here, this shows what is approved now. Basically, it was expanding pits, building waste rock dumps, but then the heart of the analysis was the dewatering. We basically said we would put in 14 dewatering wells around our Mackey pit. We would take water out of the bedrock aquifer, and we would infiltrate back into rapid infiltration basins. These rapid infiltration basins, if you can see my little mouse here, are located north of our mine near the highway. They're basically just earthen basins that just let the water infiltrate back into the ground. We analyzed 10,000 GPM. Arnie's going to talk about how we decreased that through further studies. And then a couple of things that the groundwater model basically predicted, because it's all a prediction, was that we wouldn't impact the Humboldt River. And that's basically the rock types that are around the river. We're not close enough, and that rock type prevents us from impacting the river. The seeps and springs that are in our area, our drawdown area, are perched, so they are not affected. And dewatering wasn't predicted to have any issues with subsidence. There's already subsidence going on because of Lone Tree, and our operation would not exacerbate that. And then last but not least, those simulations said that the drawdown from dewatering would not affect the existing groundwater users. So everyone who has access to groundwater would still maintain that access.
How many acre feet a day do you pump?
I don't know it in acre feet. I know it in gallons per minute. And right now, we're at about 2,000 GPM.
We're about 1,200, yeah. That's
1,200,
what we average.
okay.
In acre feet, that's around 350, 400 acre feet a year. Per day, we have to divide that by 365.
But you are putting it back in the ground, so it's not really going away.
Yeah, right. That's the idea isn't to use the water other than for consumptive uses like mining, milling, crushing, and dust suppression. So really what we're doing is just moving the water from one place to another to get it out of the way of mining.
And so you're moving the stuff that's coming to the surface because it's coming to the surface while you're moving the dirt.
Well, we're mining towards it, and we know it's there, and that's part of what I'll talk about in a few minutes is what have we looked at in terms of evaluating where the groundwater table is and how to push it lower so that we're not mining in it.
Okay, because when I read the report, I thought it had stated in there that it was about 10,000 gallons per minute.
Commissioner Ancho, that is the model prediction at 10,000.
Beg your pardon, I can't hear you.
That's the model prediction, the simulation at 10,700. And right now, what we've done over the past year is drilled and installed some monitoring equipment, some sensors, and then we've looked at the structural context. You know, how is the structural geology controlling groundwater flow? And we think now that, well, our estimate is around 7,000 gallons a minute. Peak. Yeah.
Okay, and so when you say you put it back in the ground, I was at a, UNR had put in a presentation about doing just that exact thing. And they said it takes up to it can take up to 1 million years to get to replenish, that ground for that to get back into the water table. So I struggle with that, that even being, my own opinion, I struggle with that even being an option because I obviously don't want it going down the river.
Right.
And I respect the fact that you're trying to put it in a pit to have it to reabsorb back into the ground, but to get, in order for it to truly get back into the aquifer, you're gonna lose more to probably evaporation than in the 10 years that you're pumping this water, then we're gonna get any of it to touch back into the aquifer.
Well, the answer to your question, or the answer that you just reiterated, depends on context. So if we're talking about a groundwater system in Nevada, basin and range, where it's in equilibrium, meaning that there's no other stresses from agriculture or any other use, then the water that falls on the top of the range in the form of snow or precipitation, rainfall, has to filter through all those rocks and then move into the basins. And that's the number that those folks at UNR are talking about in terms of time. What we're doing is evaluating the area, designing a basin that will move water into the groundwater system as quickly as possible. And because we're down lower near the groundwater surface at static, it doesn't take nearly as long as that for water to return to the system.
And is there any possibilities, contaminants that are going to get back into the water to where when it does go down, you're contaminating your...
Part of what we've done and part of NDEP's analysis is to take a look at attenuation. The groundwater that we'll produce at Marigold is just very slightly over the drinking water standard for arsenic, and that's really our concern. So that standard is 0.01 milligrams per liter, and the numbers that we see from analysis of the discharge water that we anticipate to make from Marigold averages about 0.12 to 0.11, somewhere in there.
So then what's the difference between what you're doing and what was done that dried up the hot pots and had the highway collapse? What's the difference between what you're doing and what they've done?
Well, it's rate and position. And what I mean by that is you're referring to Lone Tree and the dewatering effort that went on there. That happened over, I believe, 15 to 18 years, something like that. And the rate For dewatering, that particular resource was around 52,000 gallons a minute peak. What we anticipate is around 7,000 gallons, so it's substantially less. What I mean by position is that Lone Tree was developed on the west side of Lone Tree Hill. There was a substantial amount of alluvial material, sand, silts, and gravels that were in direct contact with the bedrock. And when that happens, you have much higher pumping rates to depress the groundwater table. And so that, and the length of time that went on tended to depress the groundwater table in a much wider area.
But this project is a 10-year project approximately.
Yeah, on that order, yes.
So 7,000 gallons per minute for 10 years.
No, it'll ramp up to 7,000 gallons a minute, and we'll actually achieve that probably in 2025, I believe, speaking from memory. And what I mean by ramping up is that we don't want to move any water unless we have to, and so part of what Don relies on our group to do is design a system that can bring the pumping rate up as we get deeper, and then we achieve that peak rate for just a small period of time, and then we go back to what is called an equilibrium pumping rate, which will be somewhat less, probably around 5,000 gallons a minute.
Because as a bird flies probably 15 miles from where you're going to be doing this is a whole residential area on wells that are out there that
Right,
is
yeah.
very bothersome to me.
Mhm.
So, and still, and the other part that bothered me, and this isn't your issue, this is more the BLM issue, and I lodged my complaint with them, is that Valmy was pretty much notified and noted in the report, but Battle Mountain, even though it was stated that you guys they reached out to Battle Mountain, which unless you come in and put it on the agenda and do this, we have no idea who that went to. We weren't notified, and I just think that's a huge impact, and a possible huge impact to us, to where we're not notified, but the 7 people who live in Valmy were. And nothing against them, but we have an entire community here that is, like I said, as a bird flies 15 miles, and with all those wells and all that housing development and everything out there, is extremely concerning to me. So, with that being said, does anybody else have anything to say?
No, I share your sentiments.
Thank you
Okay.
for coming.
All right.
31 acre feet a year.
Thanks.
I do have a question. How big is the cone of depression, with that kind of drawdown? Did you guys' model show how far out that goes, or what the
It
effect
does,
would be?
yeah, and it's specified on a 10-foot isoplet. And it's relatively local to Marigold itself, and when I say local, I mean within 10 miles of the point of maximum pumping. So the point of maximum pumping would be the Mackey pit. And then the cone of depression, we like to think of it as kind of a nice cone that you would look, one example is a funnel that you might use to put water in a small vessel or something like that. But it's never quite that uniform or unique, and the reason it isn't is because of fractured groundwater flow, and that's groundwater moving through fractures in the bedrock, and they tend to work like a pipeline, and so you get this this odd shape that isn't quite centered. But the 10-foot isoplyth will kind of reach out and be within 10 miles, and the reason I'm stuttering is I'm trying to remember in my mind's eye. And then that isoplyth will come around and come just southwest of the town of Valmy, and then in the alluvial material to the east towards Battle Mountain, about 10 miles, and then return.
I have a figure I can show
Just
to you.
do you? That would be great.
After? Or do you want to see it now?
You bet, if you don't mind, or maybe we could even steal a copy from you.
Sure.
All right,
Okay.
good.
Very good. Does anybody else have any questions?
No, thank you very much.
No, great.
All right, thank you guys very much. We're good?
Sorry to make you wait so long.
All right, yes.
No worries.
Here. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right. So we're gonna,
Adjourn for lunch?
huh?
Are we gonna adjourn for lunch?
Do you want to go ahead and adjourn for lunch before I get kicked in the knees?
Yeah, we're probably
Yeah.
gonna be here another couple hours.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and adjourn for lunch, okay? Thank you, guys. 1:30 we'll re-adjourn, alright? Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that'd be even better.
We're ready to go. We're gonna call the meeting back to order, alrighty? So, starting on item number 4, for discussion of possible action to approve, disapprove a holiday schedule for the Lander County Board of Commissioners meetings. So, since Patsy's the one who wanted this on here, so I'm assuming she has some kind of dates to provide.
Starting in November, we have actually 2 meetings, one on the 11th, which is Veterans Day, and that's fine. And the next one is on Thanksgiving Day, which is the 25th, so we need to look at that one. And then the very next one in December, we're actually the 9th and the 23rd. So depending, actually working backwards, if you wanna all meet on the 23rd, if not, then we have to back things up, so.
Yeah, I won't be here on the 23rd.
You'll be gone? Are you going through Christmas? Okay, well, sometimes we only meet once. in
Yeah,
December.
exactly.
Which is, it's all right.
But, depends what you wanna do for November. So if we miss the 25th, which is Thanksgiving, then we could go ahead and change our December dates to like the 2nd and the 16th, which would be the 1st and the 3rd, if you wanted to meet. Then we'd only have one meeting in November, and then change both the December ones. Or you wanna meet once in November and once in December, that's fine.
I'm good with that too.
That's fine too.
So what did, if we did that, what dates for November did you do?
Well, in November, you wouldn't, you'd simply cancel the 25th, and you'd meet the very first Thursday if that works out.
Which, is that the 11th, is that what you said?
That's a holiday as well.
Yeah, the 11th we would meet.
The 11th is a holiday.
Huh?
Veterans Day.
It's Veterans Day, that's what I said.
Oh, okay.
We're closed.
If you still wanna meet on Veterans Day,
You
we're
can't,
not
because
gonna
we're
work,
closed.
we're gonna be off.
We're closed.
Well, if you're closed, then we'll probably be lonesome all up.
Yes.
Pretty much.
So
Okay.
what other, yeah,
Well, we could just choose the 18th for November and just meet once in November on the 18th.
okay, is that all right with everyone?
Is that all right with
As
me?
long as we don't have a bunch of business creep up, yeah. that's fine.
Okay, I'm all right
We
with
can
that.
always have,
You can always have,
Commissioner, we can call a special meeting
Yeah.
3 days' notice.
You know, I always worry about that.
Yeah,
well,
Top
that's
of your-
something real important, yeah.
so then what about December, Patsy?
Okay, what do you wanna do?
I don't,
We can't meet the 23rd then, which is.
no, so what about the
close.
week before?
You can do the 23rd, I just won't be here.
No.
That's fine.
What about the Thursday before?
On Wednesday, what goes on Wednesday? Sadie,
The
what?
16th?
The 16th, Thursday the 16th, yeah, Thursday, so if we
Well, you're
did.
meeting the 9th of
Well,
December.
I know, but you asked just a minute
One and
ago
one,
if we just
yeah.
did one, and I said if we did just one, it would be the 16th, because it would be dead center.
Yeah, 16th.
Okay,
The
so,
18th of November and the 16th of December.
is that all right with everyone?
Sounds good to me, just remind me so. I
Yeah,
can
remind me
show
too.
up.
So do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
I'll make a motion that we change our November meeting dates and meet the 18th of November and the 16th of December for 2021.
I'll second it.
Alright, so Patsy made the motion, Brian second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oops, I didn't have.
There we go. Whoop. Oh. Okay. For discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove the Lander County Plan, of provisions of indigent defense services required by the regulations implemented by the Board of Indigent Defense Services. Are we good?
Okay, let me, hold on.
Okay.
Who do you want, Marcy?
I want Marcy.
Okay.
Marcy is listening in. I'd like to ask her a question. Did you open it up yet?
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
read it in.
So I'd like to.
Okay, go ahead.
She has to unmute herself, I can't unmute her.
So,
And so Thomas as well.
so Marcy and Thomas, if you could unmute yourselves. We have a couple, one question. Are they done?
No, they're still muted. And Marcy's, she's unmuted.
Okay, Marcy, this is Ted Herrera. We agendized this for approval of our plan, and unfortunately, it didn't get put as backup. So I've given a copy to the county commissioners. Now, what date does this have to be sent to you guys for approval?
I think they said by the 30th previously, but by
Of September? Mark,
Can you ask her that, Kathy?
Marcy, can you hear us?
I can hear you through the computer. Ted, can you hear me?
Yeah, who is it, Tom? Tom, what? Tom, this is Ted. What day do we have to send this in? By?
Well, it's supposed to be submitted to us by September 3rd, and then we're going to give them to the board at the next meeting after that. They were originally due May 1st, and the board gave us a 6-month extension. So yeah, they're supposed to be in our office by 5 p.m. on the 3rd.
Okay, here's our potential problem, Tom. We scheduled it, we've got it done. I've got 4 or 5 changes I was gonna make today, but it's not part of our backup. And I hate to have this approved by the county commissioners without them reading the whole document. And our next meeting is the 9th. So could you give us verbal authority to extend this to the 9th so that, and we'll send you our copy of what we're going to do.
Yeah, that would be my only, I think we could do that, but my only thought on that would be that we would like to make sure that we see it and that we're able to work with you so that we make sure that, there's a final draft that goes to the board on the 9th.
Well, yeah, we'll send you our copy. I'll make the minor changes today. We can, if you give us permission to do that, we can table it. I can make my slight modifications, send it to you, and then we will re-agendize it for the 9th. Will that work?
Yeah, we can do that, Ted. Again, I want to make sure that we see it and that we're able to work with all of the stakeholders so that it's finalized by the 9th.
I can send you a copy by Monday. What?
I can send it today.
We'll send you a copy of what we have by today.
That'd be great, Ted. That'd be perfect.
So we'll send you, you and Marcy both a copy. How's that?
That's perfect.
So
we'll just call here for any. If you guys are you going to discuss it, or do you have any questions while we're here today?
We haven't been able to look at it, so we can't have any discussion.
Yeah, they unfortunately didn't get put in as backup, so it's kind of hard to expect the county commission. I just handed them each a document, and it's how many pages? It's 20-something pages.
Would you like any kind of explanation or overview from us on that?
Do any of you want to know?
I would rather do it all at one time.
Okay.
Instead of meal piecing it.
Okay, so you guys and I can talk back and forth between tomorrow and the 9th.
Yeah, that's great. Hang on a second. Let me see if Marcy has anything to add.
Okay.
Commissioners, the only thing that we were offering to do was give kind of a little bit of a background of who we are, why we were created, and give an understanding to the commissioners as to why these plans are required, if there's any interest in that.
You know, we have been following that for some time as you actually went through legislature and got created. So I think we have a pretty good idea on that. And then we did have actually the whole chapter, what is it, 180, that was part of our backup. So we did read through that, yeah, chapter 180. So I think we have a pretty good idea. I appreciate you being on, but it's the plan that we're going to bring forth to you that we really need to spend a little bit more time on.
Totally understood.
Right?
Yes, so we have your permission to re-agendize this for the 9th?
Indeed, yeah, that sounds great, Ted, and I'll look forward to seeing the copy of that, and you and I can chat maybe tomorrow.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna be at a meeting tomorrow, but maybe Monday.
Okay, Monday works too.
Yeah, well, you can call me tomorrow. I mean, I'm in. Yeah, you can call me tomorrow. Once you get your copy. All right, thank you both, Marcy and Tom. I appreciate it, and on behalf of the county commissioners, we all appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Okay.
Sorry. Lana, for the record, did we need to have that in our packet that was passed out?
That's what she's saying.
Yeah.
Yes, that's okay. That's what they're saying, is it didn't get, the problem is it didn't get put in the
But I mean, we
packet.
didn't have that when it was handed out, so I'm asking legally, do we need to have a copy of that to put in there, or we're good?
Well, we're tabling it, so you really don't need
So
a
we're
copy
good.
of it. But if we proceeded with it, you would absolutely.
Right, okay, I just wanna make clarification, thank you.
Thanks. All right. All right, moving forward. For discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove resolution, 2021-08, providing the transfer of Lander County's 2021 private, activity bond volume cap to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority in the amount not to exceed $347,054.07. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Diane Arvizo, Director of Homeownership Programs for the Nevada Rural Housing Authority. And I did give you my card so you can see how my name is spelled for the record. So today I'm coming before you to provide an update on the impact of Nevada Rural Housing Authority's programs in Lander County and provide an overview of the use, source, and limitations of private activity bonds and the volume cap request that's on the agenda before you. In 2006, Nevada Rural Housing Authority launched the Home at Last Down Payment Assistance Program. That was funded by private activity bonds. Including last year's transfer from Lander County and since the launch of the program 15 years ago, Lander County has transferred roughly $3 million in unused volume cap to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority for our Home at Last program. Since that time, 78 new homeowners in Lander County have been provided with $12 million in affordable mortgages. 6 of those home buyers became new homeowners within the last year. Over 10,000 rural Nevadans have become homeowners through our program across the state. Of the $12 million in affordable mortgages, that has been a portion of the $2.1 billion that we've provided across rural Nevada only. Nearly $445,000 in down payment assistance has been provided in Lander County alone, and of that, $47,000 within the last year. The homeowners in Lander County have also received an estimated $20,000 in tax savings through the Mortgage Credit Certificate Program. When we talk about affordable mortgages, I just want to give you a little hint on what that actually means for our program. We actually have an option that doesn't even provide down payment assistance. We call it our no assistance or 0%. And it's to provide access to affordable credit for homeowners who don't need the assistance, but they need the affordable rate. If they went to another bank, they might get dinged for having below 720 FICO score. Our minimum is 640. So a borrower with a 640 FICO gets the same interest rate as somebody with a higher credit score. More than 55% of our homeowners have received an interest rate below 3.5% within the last year and a half, and many of those received a 30-year first mortgage with a rate of 2.25%. Today, we are requesting Lander County's distribution of the 2021 unused volume cap, noting that amount is $347,054.07. Nevada Rural Housing Authority would use the volume cap to continue funding the Home at Last homeownership programs. State and local governments can use private activity bonds to issue debt for qualified purposes that are given the same tax-exempt privileges as the debt that's issued by government-owned and operated projects. Congress, of course, limits the type and use of private activity bonds to avoid overuse of the tax-exempt benefits. When the federal government issues the annual volume cap distribution to the state of Nevada, according to state law, 50% is retained by the state, and the other 50% is what is distributed to cities and counties across Nevada. That's based on population. The volume cap that is distributed to the cities and counties is often too small of an amount to make an impact on its own. It has to be used for a qualified purpose and designated by September 1st of each year. Otherwise, the unused volume cap will revert back to the state. That goes to the State of Nevada Department of Business and Industry. Well, they will make the decision then on where to use the volume cap. And as we know, in rural Nevada, most of that cap goes to Washoe and Clark County for large projects. A qualified purpose includes things like manufacturing plants, high-speed rail, single-family mortgages, multifamily housing, and other purposes that the government considers a public good. The purpose of providing the private activity bonds is to provide investors or borrowers with the benefit of tax-exempt financing. In the case of our single-family homeownership program, the bond financing can provide access to the affordable credit that I talked about, and it can subsidize the mortgage for a first-time homebuyer or qualified veteran by giving them a dollar-for-dollar tax credit, which is what we use through the Mortgage Credit Certificate Program. That MCC is what we call it, is added on to any financing that a borrower gets, whether or not they use our down payment assistance program. They get that dollar-for-dollar tax credit every year for the life of the loan for as long as they live in that home as their primary residence. Often the volume cap, I mentioned that, sorry. Since 2006, the Nevada Rural Housing Authority has pooled the unused volume cap in our cities and counties that we serve to create the single-family program Home at Last. By putting our request in, I like to emphasize that we aren't asking for your volume cap in a competitive way. We only come around when there's not another project on the table with an application submitted to you for the use. When you don't have another application, then we would ask for any unused cap to be transferred to us rather than going back to the state. The transfer of the unused volume cap to Nevada Rural Housing Authority does not create any obligation or debt for the cities or counties because it's only the annual allocation of the volume cap, not actual money or a line item on your budget. And again, by September 1st, you basically have three options. You can use it for a qualified purpose if you have someone making an application to you, or you can transfer it to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority to be used in the rural areas of Nevada only, or the third option is to let it simply revert back to the state. You have till, again, September 1st to make those decisions every year. By transferring the unused volume cap to Nevada Rural Housing Authority, you're guaranteeing that it will be used in the rural areas of Nevada exclusively. Nevada Rural Housing Authority's area of jurisdiction is anywhere with populations below 150,000. So of course that's 15 of the Nevada 17 counties. We are asking for your continued support this year with the transfer if you don't have another application before you. And I'd like to answer any questions that you may have about the bond cap specifically. But I also understand that there may be some questions about the rental services program, so I wanted to touch on what we're doing as an agency to serve your rental residents, for example. So I have a report from the Director of Rental Services, Lena Freyas, and so bear with me as I read my notes more carefully. So the first update is on the Housing Choice Voucher, or Section 8 program as it's often referred to. Within Lander County, Nevada Rural Housing has 7 households currently participating in the Housing Choice Voucher program. We currently have 1 applicant that has been approved for assistance and is actively seeking rental housing within your community. Additionally, there's 1 applicant on the wait list in the queue, and their application will be processed when it comes up. Our Housing Choice Voucher waitlist was opened the last time in February of this year, and we anticipate opening the waitlist within the next few months. We will announce the opening of our waitlist via public notice as well as on our website, via email blast to our local government and social service partners, and through a variety of media announcements throughout our jurisdiction. On the CHAP program, the CARES Housing Assistance Program, that emergency rental assistance program has been awarded in 2 rounds of funding to administer emergency rental assistance to your residents and the residents in rural Nevada, which we oversee all the 15 counties. The program specifically helps residents who have experienced a COVID-related loss or reduction in income. NRHA has ample resources to aid your residents during this challenging time. On the first round of CHAP funding that we received through the CARES Act, Lander County had $22,847 administered in emergency rental assistance during the first phase of the program. That launched in July of 2020, just for the record. And we concluded that program in March of 2021 as we began the second round that came to us. During that time, 37 applicants applied for the program, specifically Lander County. 7 households were determined eligible and received assistance, and the funding was paid directly to their landlord. 30 were removed for a variety of reasons, including failure to respond to requests or ineligibility based on program guidelines. Thank you. I think I'll just stick around Lander County.
Yeah.
Donuts, fruit, and that is service. Thank you. Or maybe I was just torturing you with my dry mouth. Okay, so 2 applicants disclosed that they were homeless, 2 indicated they were disabled, 3 identified as American Indian, 32 Caucasian, and 2 indicated multiple races. 29 applicants disclosed that they were a female head of household. The current round of CHAP funding that we have and are currently administering funds through, we received $14.8 million for that funding program. In Lander County, we have funded $6,579 so far in emergency rental assistance during the second phase. And again, that launched in March. 28 applicants have applied for the program since that time, and 1 household has been determined eligible and it has actually received the rental assistance paid directly to their landlord. 8 of the applicants were removed for a variety of reasons, including, again, failure to respond to requests for information or ineligibility based on the program guidelines. 3 applicants are currently undergoing eligibility review, and 16 are in a waiting queue, waiting for their application to be processed. 2 applicants disclosed that they're homeless, 5 indicated that they're disabled, 2 disclosed that they are elderly, 3 identified as American Indian, 25 indicated Caucasian, and 6 applicants disclosed that they were female head of household. And lastly, Lena would like for me to convey that we can use your help in Lander County. Sharing information about these programs and services is vital. NRHA's marketing department actively promotes agency resources that are available for all rural Nevadan areas, yet our jurisdiction covers 110,000 square miles of Nevada across the 15 counties. So it can be challenging to reach every resident that needs services. If you can provide us with additional contact information for our social service and local government partners within Lander County, we will ensure that they are directly notified when we do things like open the wait list or have assistance programs. The more avenues we can get information out, the better. We are here to help all rural Nevadans, and we appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with our partners and to help ensure that we reach as many individuals and households in need of housing assistance. I will add that I'll be at the NACO conference coming up later this year, and League of Cities is actually happening now. I'm not there because I'm here, but I'm going to stick around because of the gracious service that there is here. However, I will tell you one of the things that's an initiative for me this year is to make sure that I'm getting the current contact information for each city and county so we can make sure our materials for our programs are getting to the right places. So when people walk into an office and they say, I need to know are there any housing programs for either rental services or homeownership, where do I go, that information is constantly being resupplied. So that's my personal initiative for the programs, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have today.
I do. Can I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please. I have a few of them. Because of, like, the Frontier Action Agency here in Battle Mountain, they don't have your contact information because we have been trying to find Section 8 housing for some of the elderly here in town. And everywhere we call, they say the wait list, and this is the part that drives me crazy. We say that we have a wait list of, there's one person in and there's a person on wait list. When we call, there's 150 people on, or there's 200 people on, and nobody ever calls us back to tell us that there's something open. And then when you do, it's not here, it's for somewhere else. And we have the people who live in those John Marvel apartments, there's a lot of people over there who need help, and our community's not getting it because that information is not getting to the right person. Like, as soon as I leave here, your card's gonna be going over to the Frontier Community Action Agency because I've been working for almost a year for a lady to try to get her help from those apartments, and I've even called Amadei's office, and they give me a number, and you call it, and you have to wait till it opens up, and nobody ever calls you back, and beating your head against the wall to try to get somebody to help these people, and you make it sound like, and I'm not meaning sarcastically, you're making it sound like, oh my gosh, it's just so easy. Well, boy howdy, I'm lucky I have any hair left because this poor woman lives on $1,200 a month, and over $650 of it goes towards rent. And then when you contact the people who have the John Marvel, they're like, she already has aid in it. Well, that's their aid of whoever manages those apartments. That's the credit we give them. Well, goodness, that means that her rent would be $900 a month if they didn't do anything, but that doesn't help her who has this much money at the end of the month and can't buy her prescriptions. And so my God, and there's been people in this here that have tried to help me, and we have beat our head against the wall because we can't get a hold of anybody that can help us with Section 8 with this woman. And so
Madam Chair, you're absolutely correct.
So, yeah, so.
And I'll just add to that where there's that one story, there are thousands more. So there are distinct different programs that address specific purposes, and we are literally like the HUD issuer of the Section 8 vouchers, and we are limited to how many vouchers we get, but there are different types of vouchers as well. So I just, for clarity, would like to share that there are some vouchers that are project-based. So when you talk about, well, they would have to go to Tonopah to get a house or something like that, that means that there is an opening there for a project-based voucher that cannot move. It's attached to that unit. So we have those types of vouchers that we have to promote as being available. That's one avenue. And then people do get frustrated when that's not where they want to live, but we have vouchers across rural Nevada, so we have different openings at different times. For the voucher that stays with the person and they get to go look for a house, that is very challenging because that's the wait list that's ever growing. But people's lives are continuously changing. So when we have the wait list and we grab a bunch of applications and we start to process when the wait list is open, they're processing those applications, issuing vouchers. Those people then go hit the streets looking for a place to live, and that is its own challenge to lease up in a place. And so we can only have so many people in the queue at one time, so they cycle through. As people secure housing, then we know the numbers and how many more vouchers we have. We're limited to a certain number of vouchers within HUD, and we are hoping that HUD will expand the number of vouchers for Nevada because we get about the same as the city of Chicago, which is absurd when we serve the entire state, and it hasn't been changed in decades. So there is a real issue there, but we are restricted to how much we can do at a certain time. Now, as far as getting information back and being able to update you on what is available, when is the wait list going to open, as you might imagine, when a wait list is open, we are flooded with applicants, as we should be. So it opens, and then it closes very quickly because thousands of people submit their applications. And, half the applications we're pulling, not half literally, that's not a statistic, but when we pull applications, if they're not eligible, maybe they don't even live here anymore. They've moved because they were waiting on the wait list. So it takes time to go through each one of those and find the real people that we can serve, which is why I encourage people who have a voucher don't treat it lightly. That voucher is like gold. It helps you stay in your home. So some people leave the house they're in and then they get frustrated. They lose their voucher because they can't find another place to live. So it is a very difficult situation. But there are different programs. So when you have someone like the person that you described who needs maybe more of an emergency type situation, of course, the CARES Housing Assistance Program is very specific to coronavirus. It came from the federal government, and we have those restrictions we have to follow to help people who are in an emergency rental type situation, and we're putting those dollars out as fast as we can. So when I talk about that positivity piece of that, that's because we are helping those people right now. And that is a real statistic. And thankfully, we have $14 million that we can keep helping people who are in need right now, but they're already in a rental assistance or rental situation, and they have to qualify. They have to meet the parameters that the federal government sets, not what Nevada Rural Housing sets. In terms of emergency assistance for someone who maybe doesn't have a home, they're homeless or they're facing something dire, there are other services that we would have to refer them to for that emergency, because we cannot show preferential treatment for just any situation. We can't say, well, this person is, with suitcase out on the sidewalk, we need to get them in a house today, because where there's that one, there's thousands. So it is challenging, but we are an excellent conduit to helping make sure that there are more people accessing the services that are available. There are short-term solutions in many cases. So we do want to make sure that we're getting you the information that you need. That's actually going to be Lena Freyas. And for the record, that's LFRIAS at nvrural.org. She's the Director of Rental Services. And I would encourage anyone that is listening or has concerns about the rental situation to contact her to find out how we can improve the communication channels, because she would like it as much as you would. Okay. Yeah. And thank you for that.
Thank you. So just some concerns, I want to make sure all the commission know that Nevada Rural Housing operates under the oversight of a Board of Commissioners appointed by NACO and by Nevada City of League of Cities, right? So I just want to make sure you guys understand that. And then also, I'm on the premise that we take care of our own. And one of my concerns I had, and I brought it up to our DA, was this is our money, we give it. I don't think there's anything that's controlling that money being specified to help our Lander County citizens. So if you have an applicant, let's just say there was people that were displaced in Louisiana, or we have this issue now at the border with the people coming over, and the state basically making it okay to come on in, right, refuge, can that money be used to place those people, and could they end up in Lander County? I believe the question to that answer is yes, they could. So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. And then my question would be for Ted and to our county managers, that money, if we maintain it ourselves, how could we use it to benefit, exactly like Kathy brought up, to benefit our people, our elderly people, our people in our community that need help, to where it's not going to necessarily somebody else?
And a question with that, because Brian and I questioned it last time, if we did have something, we have to have it designated as qualified by September 1st.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But here's the question I have. Can we transfer this money to you with conditions, with specific conditions?
We are not accepting transfers with conditions, because we serve the entire state with one program, and the program structure does not permit that. I can tell you your return on your investment in Lander County has far exceeded the $3 million in collective transfers that you've made over 15 years. And if you don't transfer it to Nevada Rural Housing, which is certainly your prerogative, it most likely is going to be used in...
Not unless we have a program we can put it into, correct?
Yeah, but we can't get that by
a
September 1st.
program, just for clarification, a program like maybe what you're describing is not a qualified purpose. So think along the lines of an investor who's building a multifamily apartment complex may come in and submit an application to you. They already know this is one layer of many other financing components that help them get the tax credits that they need to build a project. They would come before you and say, we're building a multifamily project or some other qualified project, and we would like you to transfer that to us, in which case we would not even submit our request.
Could we build our own thing?
You would have to go through a
Upfront the cost,
conduit
this is a question
issuer.
for RDA.
Oh,
Could we
sorry.
build our own thing?
Well, we could, if it meets certain conditions. Now, you're aware of the conditions that we have to meet in order to do that. Could you please enlighten us as to what conditions?
If the city or counties that we talk to have specific projects, say they want to build a wastewater treatment plant, they would have to use a conduit issuer in which to do that. So you would have a developer, they would have a project, that would all be laid out, and that would be one of the layers, and absolutely you could do that. But that takes the planning ahead for that to be designated and planned. You have to kind of think about what it is you're going to put together, and then where does that come in? You can't be the direct controller of private activity bond cap. You would use some kind of conduit issuer through the process.
Right.
It's to provide tax exempt financing to investors.
And we'd have to do it by September 1st.
Well, you get an allocation every year that
Right.
in your portion based on population, the state gives you till September 1st to do something with it, or they take it back so that they can do something with it.
So let me make this clear for the county commissioners. If we don't transfer it to you by September 1st, which is in a week or so, it will convert to the state.
It will revert to the state of
And there's
Nevada. That's
really
correct.
nothing we can set up between now and September 1st. But after September 1st for the next year, we can start working and put something in place.
And what
You
does
can plan for
what
that,
does the
yeah.
state do with that money when they receive it?
Whatever they want.
Whatever they want.
So they have they actually have till February 15th in which to designate the private activity bond cap for the entire state to something specific. So for example, they might have 200 million in bond cap at the end of the year, and they say we want 150,000 or 150 million of that to go to multifamily housing. So for apartment complexes across mostly Washoe and Clark counties, and 50,000 might go to single family housing for bond programs. So it depends on the state. The governor certainly weighs in on what his desires are. They always look at that. You might have heard about the high-speed rail in Las Vegas.
Yes.
They wanted, that project's been on and then off and then on and then off multiple times. I believe that's like a 200 million in bond cap commitment that when it comes around, if it's agreeable to the state, that's what they're going to use for it.
So I have a question. I think that maybe Brian and Kathy are going to this. What if we were to, obviously this year we don't have time, we're probably gonna end up transferring this over, I would have to believe, but if next year, say if we were to build like a couple small little, one bedroom, is things of that nature where we have something for our seniors that's here local and our money ends up staying local, can you expand on how that works or if that's even possible?
That's a really excellent question, because it is literally the dream of so many small communities to have a very small complex to serve either seniors or low income. But those are incredibly challenging to put together, to pencil out with people who will come and do it. You've got to have the entities that will come and build those. They're very cost prohibitive and they require a lot of layering, and not all those projects will qualify for the tax credit. So it's incredibly complex. But what I would challenge you to do, if that is your goal, is to have a project like that built in your community, is to sit down with our executive director and our community development director, her name is Stacy Sept, and actually talk about what are your goals, what are the needs, and have we serve as the facilitator on helping put these things together. But it is not as easy as just saying we would like 12 units and let's plan to build one next year. A lot goes into making this happen, but it's definitely you got to start somewhere if you have a goal.
Well, sorry, because I have a concern of us having something like that built by you guys, but then you guys get to place whoever you would like in them, correctly?
No, not necessarily. So it depends on the type of structure, and each one is unique. So that's a question you would have in that roundtable on what are your goals? Are you wanting to do senior? Are you wanting to do low income? Are you wanting to designate some as project based? All of that goes into those discussions, and each project is uniquely different.
What does Section 8 stipulate? What is, when you say Section 8?
So Section 8, we are allocated from HUD a certain number of vouchers that we administer. So we're a public housing authority when it comes to the Section 8 program.
So my question, let me interrupt you there, so like if he's building those and you have those vouchers, they could be placed in that building, correct, or not?
Yeah, Section 8 voucher holders can work with any landlord. If they hold the voucher, any landlord can and should. It's guaranteed rent.
Right.
work with one of our Section 8 recipients.
I'm almost thinking that those John Marvel apartments were originally built with this to begin with. I'm thinking, this is how those started to begin through, because the state bond cap is not our money, it's actually, isn't it pass-through money that comes to us, and that's what I think, yes or no?
Yeah, that's what I was
And see,
coming
that's what,
to tell you
people,
guys.
I think that people get confused and think
It's
that it's
not
actually our money, and that we are and if we don't use it, we have to give it through. It's actually money that the state is giving us, they're giving us so much time to use it, and if we don't use it, for like programs like this, we have to give it back.
But we
it's-
have a choice.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, yes,
Yeah,
but
so
it's
we do
not
have a
our money,
choice.
it's not our
And
money.
just for clarification, it's actually bond authority, bond issuing authority,
Yeah.
not money, so
So,
you're not
well,
losing,
yeah.
so.
And so it's not ours to begin with, it's pass-through money that's like, here, there's this money, you can utilize it. And so we pass it through, back through to you guys to utilize it, because if not, if we don't use it, we have to give it back to the state.
That's exactly
And
right.
it's reallocated within the program.
That's
And
exactly
so that's where the, because those, I believe those John Marvel apartments were built that way. And then once this is where the problem happens, is they're built, and then whoever the contractor was that built it, they actually turn that over to a management company, and the management company runs it, and they decide at that time how much they're gonna start rent. We don't have a say, and we start all over right where we're at right now with the John Marvel apartments, because that's where that whole thing starts all over again. So we can build 500 complexes, but if we can't run them, they're gonna be ran by another company, and we're gonna still have the same problem we have now.
If there is a multifamily project like that, that starts with the affordable tax credits, they do have a requirement to keep that low market-based, or not market-based rents, but the low rents for tenants for 15 years. So what you want is for the owners to retain ownership, to then guarantee that continues and continues and continues. So Nevada Rural Housing actually will purchase properties solely for the purpose of maintaining affordability. So we're always looking for, like, if somebody wants to sell a multifamily project, we will look at it and see if that's a viable property that we can either rehab or keep in affordability. We're doing that all the time. I think we own and operate at least 14, if not a few more properties. And this year, we just started a few months ago, we launched our own property management company called Bluebird Property. So we are now managing all of the properties that we own.
As it should be, because if not, you have just exactly what we're having right
Our
now.
John Marvel complex, the people in the apartments send their checks to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority.
Out of Ely?
Yes.
Yeah. So
they are the owners of it. So the high costs are set by the Nevada Rural Housing.
So that's,
That property does not sound familiar to me. It might be that they're sending the check there because they have a voucher. Not all voucher holders are leasing from a place that we own and operate. In fact, very few. I mean, not very few, but like the percentage of voucher holders that are renting from just a private owner are abundant. So I don't know that property. I don't think that's one of ours.
So you act as a pass-through agency for private property owners?
Well, for that particular complex, we're probably just managing the vouchers.
Okay.
And paying a portion of the
So
rent
they'd be
based
paying-
on,
If it wasn't for your vouchers, they'd be paying a lot more.
Yes, exactly right.
So I have a quick question in our backup. You've got down here that you did help, like 77 in Battle Mountain on the house mortgages and one in Austin. Do you happen to have the breakdown on any rental assistance between Austin and Battle Mountain?
The rental assistance numbers that she gave me were for the county, but I can ask Lena if there's a breakdown.
I just wondered
She
if there
will
was
definitely
anybody
know
down
that.
there. yeah,
Absolutely, I can get that for you.
that we were really helping.
How
Thank
many
you.
voucher holders are in Austin versus Battle Mountain?
Right.
Sure, absolutely.
Are there any more questions?
Doesn't look like we have much of a choice.
No.
At this point.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So,
But if we hadn't asked, we wouldn't know.
no, and that's how, I mean, I've got some great information that I can, also pass on to the,
Well, the resolution needs to be read in, and it's a long one. Is anybody ready?
It's all yours, Patsy.
it's all yours, Patsy.
Okay, I make a motion that our county commissioners approve resolution number 2021-08, It's a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Lander County, Nevada, providing for the transfer of the county's 2021 private activity bond volume cap to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority and other matters related thereto. Whereas, pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 348A of the Nevada Revised Statutes and Chapter 348A of the Nevada Administrative Code, there has been allocated to Lander County, Nevada, the amount of $347,054.07 in tax-exempt private activity bond volume cap for the year 2021. And whereas the Nevada Rural Housing Authority, NRHA, has requested that the county transfer its 2021 bond cap to the NRHA for the purpose of providing a means of financing the costs of single-family residential housing that will provide decent, safe, and sanitary dwellings at affordable prices for persons of low and moderate income, single-family programs, and whereas the county is a local government as defined by NAC 348A.070, and whereas Section 348A.180 of the NAC provides a procedure whereby the county may, by resolution, transfer to any other local government located within the same county all or any portion of its 2021 bond cap, and whereas pursuant to NRS 315.983 1A, the NRHA is an instrumentality, a local government and political subdivision of the state of Nevada, and whereas the NRHA is located within the county pursuant to NRS 315.963, which defines the NRHA's area of operation as any area of the state which is not included within the corporate limits of a city or town having a population of 550,000 or more. Now therefore, the Board of Commissioners of the county does hereby find, resolve, determine, and order as follows. Section 1, recitals. The recitals set forth herein above are true and correct in all respects. Section 2, transfer of private activity bond volume cap. Pursuant to NAC 348A.180, the county hereby transfers its 2021 bond cap in the amount of $347,054.07 to the NRHA for its single-family programs. Section 3, use of 2021 bond cap. The NRHA will use the 2021 bond cap for single-family purposes in the calendar year 2021, or carry forward any remaining amount according to the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended for such purposes. Section 4, representative of county. Pursuant to NAC 348A.180(1), the Director of the State of Nevada Department of Business and Industry, the Director, may contact Bert Ramus, County Manager, Lander County, regarding this resolution at 775-635-2885 or by email at bramus@landercountynv.org or in writing at 50 State Route 305, Battle Mountain, Nevada 89820. Section 5, additional action. The Chair of the Board of Commissioners and the Clerk of the County are hereby authorized and directed to take all actions as necessary to effectuate the transfer of the 2021 bond cap and carry out the duties of the county hereunder, including the execution of all certificates pertaining to the transfer as required by NAC 348A. Section 6, direction to the NRHA. The NRHA shall notify the Director in writing as soon as practicable of the occurrence or non-occurrence of any term or condition that would affect the disposition of the 2021 bond cap. Section 7, representative of the NRHA pursuant to NAC 348A.180(3). The Director may contact Diane Arvizio, Director of Home Ownership Programs of the NRHA, regarding this resolution at 775-886-7900 or by email at diane@nvrural.org or in writing at Nevada Rural Housing Authority, 3695 Desatoya Drive, Carson City, Nevada, 89701. Section 8, obligation of the county. This resolution is not to be construed as a pledge of the faith and credit of or by the county or any agency, instrumentality, or subdivision of the county. Nothing in this resolution obligates or authorizes the county to issue bonds for any project or to grant approvals for a project or constitutes a representation that such bonds will be issued. Section 9, enforceability. If any section, paragraph, clause, or provision of this resolution shall for any reason be held to be invalid or unenforceable, the invalidity or unenforceability of such section, paragraph, clause, or provision shall not affect any of the remaining provisions of this resolution. This resolution shall go into effect immediately upon its passage. Adopted, signed, and approved this 26th day of August 2021 by the Board of County Commissioners, Lander County, Nevada, and authorize our chair to sign.
All right. Do you have a second? I'll second. Go ahead. Brian, second. So Patsy made the motion, Brian second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh, JR seconded, I'm sorry, so correction, Patsy made the motion, JR second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you all
so
very much.
And you'll be hearing from me, now that I have your card.
Thank you for spending the day with us.
Yes.
My pleasure, entirely.
Safe travels.
And so, who's the person we meet with if we want to try to set up a program here?
Our executive director, Bill Brewer, is wbrewer@nubrewer.org.
Okay, thank you.
Or you can always email me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
All right. Okay, moving forward for Summit Engineering, for discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove the termination and/or the modification of the existing contract between Summit Engineering and Lander County on the Austin Town Boundary Realignment Project.
If we can table this for one more meeting,
Okay.
they appreciate it.
All right.
That seems to be the MO.
Yeah.
Just keep stretching it out, stretching it out.
We've got like 9.
I'm not saying us.
Yeah, well, there's still 9 different contracts we have to go over and read and.
Okay.
Yeah, this one is actually squarely on us. This one's
Okay.
not, yes.
Well, then
Okay.
I take
My
that
bad,
up.
I was gone all week.
All right.
We have one more work to do.
Okay.
Only 9?
Well, I got
Only
a
9 contracts? Only
Yeah.
9?
All right, so we're gonna table that one, moving forward for correspondence reports, future agenda items, so I have some, questions on. One of the things that was, Matt talked about today was the high-speed internet, the stuff that,
Fiber optic?
yeah, the fiber optic. Now, I know Master's office was working with us, where are we with all of that? Does anybody know? Cause I know, Kyla was working with all of that, but where are we? Do we know?
I think Kyla was working
Kyla
with
was
Sky Fiber.
But I know though, because Mastro came in a few times when Keith was here and was, because there was that funding that had to do with that all the counties were going to get. They had to go out for bid and all that kind of stuff, and so,
I do know that we have fiber to like the Civic Center and a few places. I can give you guys a better update, or we can make an agenda item out of it for the next agenda,
Can
so I
we
can go
please?
do some research on
all
it. You
right,
bet.
that'd be good. And then I had a couple things. So can we put the library back on? Are we ready to do that or not?
If we put it on, it'll surely spur us into doing something.
Please, the library.
There are a couple things, yeah.
Then I have a question. I had saw the, when I was over at the, Family Action Agency thing, that the greenhouse that's sitting over there, what is that? And is that ours or is that theirs or?
No,
what?
that is definitely our greenhouse. That is a greenhouse that we had put in the budget. I believe that the seniors and whoever else wants to in the community to start a community garden.
So do we?
That is that.
So is it going through then the rec center to get this project spurred, or how are we?
Yes,
doing
that did go through the rec center.
Okay, so.
Didn't we have one for Austin too?
I believe they do have one for Austin as well. I
And
do
where
not
is
know
that?
where it's at or if it's been put up or if we only have this one. I will follow up on that.
Okay, cause I know,
No, I know he has 2 now. I just don't know that it's been erected yet. But I know that we do have 2 of them.
okay, well, it's probably, well, is this something that will go through the winter?
Oh yeah, they're supposed to be stable little structures.
They're really strong?
Yeah, so
Okay,
I
then you can
will,
just check
I
on
will
it
follow up
for
on that
us,
with
yeah.
Sean.
There's a couple of reports I would like to hear actually, from our new cooperative extension educator. And Lois was here this morning, but I'd love to have her on the agenda and give us an update now that she's starting the program with us. And I also would like a report from our Public Works Director. I think it's time, and I'd like to know where everything is and what's going on to kind of give us a nice update. And I also, excuse me, I had a question. We all received the information, the letter that came from China Springs Youth Camp. So that will be on the agenda. And I also have brought up the one this morning in my report. If you folks want to take a look at that Open Access Evapotranspiration, OPNET Act, the one that's through the United States Congress, and take a look whether it's something we want to support. The thing about being on, the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority is a lot of these things don't come up before the county, so they make a decision of whether to support them or not support them. And as I said, we did not make a decision because we opted to see if people wanted to bring it back to their counties for them to take a look at or not.
What's that called again, Patsy?
I'll give you it's highlighted there. Yeah, so if it is something that you want us to go through, like I said, when we looked at it, we had pros and cons, and they asked for our input, so we're giving them input. But we decided not to support or not support because we didn't know what the counties all wanted to do. So, do you want it on the agenda to take a look at least?
Sure, can't hurt.
Yeah. We have a limit of 2 items per commissioner.
I have one more. She cut me off. One more.
Throwing another one up. Yes, ma'am. What's next?
The Lepsy, because when I helped with the Lepsy before, I thought that we had a small amount of funds there, and I cannot remember because it's been a while because I was the Lepsy secretary for a long time. And then once I was no longer the secretary, I don't know what happened at that point. They started putting in for some grants and things like that. But there was just a small amount of money in there that they used for just different stuff. And so I can't remember if that was in Ron's budget or how that worked. Do you remember? Because it was before. But I know, but was it under your budget?
So I think that they had somebody that was a secretary there at one point that there was some miscommunication with that I think we're trying to clean up, or maybe Lakin can
When
speak to it.
Esther was there, she did a good job at putting in for the grants, because that's how Lepsy's funded, is solely on grants. The county doesn't have a budget for them. A previous commissioner was put in charge of that, and no grants were applied for last year. So last year they had no operating money.
Okay.
Whoever, I think Michelle Young's in charge of it now, and I don't know.
And I sit on that board, and that's why I'm asking.
I've sent her all the emails that I've gotten about the grants, but they have specific deadlines which they've passed.
Oh, no, but there's issues why they can't put in for grants, because there's some information that's needed that they, without that information, some information from the county, without that, they can't put in for those grants.
Oh, she hasn't reached out and asked for any information.
Without that information, they can't, which is, that can get figured out, that doesn't need to be discussed here, get figured out later, but at one time, the county had a Lepsy budget, and then, because I didn't put in for grants when I did it, because I was at the sheriff's office, and so we had a small operating, budget. And then Esther started putting in for grants, but a lot of those grants for Lepsy, they have criteria that they have to have, and without it, you can't bother putting in for it. And so, I think that's where Michelle's running into a couple of, and plus she doesn't know anything, she's having a hard time because she doesn't know a lot about this program, so she's trying to start from ground zero. And so, she was asking, because she found my binders that I had, because I kept everything from dirt and moved up. And so, yeah, if we can try to figure out when it was back then, and I get the folders and the dates, then try to look back that far and see what the small amount that was until you can get grants, because they do have some operation things that need to be paid for, and without that, they can't do anything.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't aware of any funding that.
But it's been back, and it was before Esther, because before Esther, I was the one that did it, and I did it for several years through the sheriff's office. Okay?
Okay.
All right, very good, thank you. And that's it. Anything else? All right, so, any public comment?
This is the
Yeah.
Okay, just, I was gonna put a timer on my phone for you guys, just so you have a visual, I'm a visual. Sandy Sullivan, county clerk for the record. So, here we go. Okay, sorry, I thought Ron said, and here we go.
Okay.
Anyway, this is the device that, our machines are programmed. So if you have, a disabled person that comes in that's blind, they have the privacy to not have somebody assist them, that they can keep their information in, private. So it has the Braille, did I say that correctly?
Braille.
Yes, on here, so that way they can vote. So this is just the device that's hooked to the machine that is required by law.
Okay.
So that's where I'm coming from when it, we talk of just going all paper.
But they could
So-
do Braille on paper too, because they do that.
Right, so, and I don't know how that looks.
Right, yeah.
But just so that you know, but
I understand the disability aspect of it
actually, I still believe that there is a law that states they have to be able to have electronic. If they choose to, they have that choice, paper or the electronic.
Do they print in Braille? Will the state print them ballots in Braille?
I have never had that question asked.
New question.
New question, new question. Okay, so this is just my last little statement or what have you. Let me pull it up. Okay, so what I state next is to inform the board, the voters, and all parties involved what has happened and what will be going on moving forward on the election machines, like we touched base earlier. We already talked about it, that I wanted the record to reflect that on Tuesday I was approached just to have the machines removed from the office per the NRS 293B.115 that we talked about earlier. After talking with the Secretary of State and other entities, it wasn't taken lightly. And so I received a letter from the Secretary of State, Barbara Sagaski, entitled Retention of Voting Records After Canvass of Votes. There's several statutes within that letter, and I can pass that along. It was just addressed to me, but it's public. Also the email that came through to all of you and myself from the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, that also was sent to the Honorable Aaron D. Ford, Nevada Attorney General, and also Christopher Chu, Acting U.S. Attorney for Nevada. So I just wanted to state this on the record that I'll be following the Nevada revised statutes and what's stated through the letters of the U.S. Department of Justice. And I just wanted to kind of give you a little visual on that there. So thank you for your time.
Thanks. So, all right, any other further comment? All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, second?
Okay.
All right, so Brian made the motion, JR second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.